called yesterday, I forgot. And they were gonna come out today, this afternoon. I said,
Might just have to do this old school.
I don't know, there's something in there.
You can't get it to come up?
And then isn't there something on the web? But that's, I mean, that's always the first place to start. I would put that I would something like that. I mean.
It is 1 p.m. on Tuesday, May 6, 2025. This is our regular scheduled city commission meeting. Madam Clerk, is there decorum?
Yes.
Great. And then I will open with the Pledge of Allegiance and the Invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we offer you our hearts and our minds to glorify you. We pray that there is peace in our community and our homes so that we can live and love and care together. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Next is the approval of the minutes of our last regular meeting. If there are no corrections, they shall stand approved. Any corrections? Seeing none, they are approved. Item 5 on our agenda is the public comment. So this is time for our community members to come up, and we will give you 5 minutes to speak. And if you come up and speak, please state your name.
Okay, I'm just gonna read out my letter because if not, I'll go rambling and I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Good evening, members of the City Commission and Mayor. My name is Brittany Martin and I'm a resident of Garden City. I bring over 10 years of professional experience in child welfare and family services, having served in various capacities across state agencies, nonprofits, organizations, schools, and private sector. I'm here today because I was unable to attend the recent town hall meeting due to a work conference in Kansas City. Despite not being present, I remain deeply concerned about events that have impacted our community, specifically the ICE activity that took place during the week of April 7th. I would like to ask the Commission, what is the process or criteria for the city or the mayor to make a public statement in response to such events? I'm here to respectfully request that the city consider making a public statement regarding the activity or the broader immigration-related concerns facing our community. While ICE has had a presence here before, what occurred that week was not business as usual. The scale of operations and the multi-community scope of the detainments made this different. This includes, to my knowledge, at least one minor. I have previously worked with this child's family, and on that day, ICE visited his sister's home around 11 a.m. at a time when, as you can imagine, he was in school, where any child should be during the week. Whether he was the only minor on the list, I cannot say for certain, but the fact that I personally knew one suggests there may be others. This concerns me deeply, not only as a professional who works with families, but as a resident member of this community. Children should not be swept up in enforcement operations designed for adults accused of criminal activity. I have contacted other offices and sheriff departments. Everybody's been respectful, talked to me and tried to express, concerns and stuff, so I do appreciate that from our community. Beyond the ICE activity, our community is also struggling with broader challenges. Service agencies are losing funding and vital resources are disappearing. Transportation remains a significant barrier. For example, when families cannot access court hearings in Kansas City due to lack of transportation, individuals, including minors, are at risk of falling into deportation status. That is what happened in the case I mentioned earlier. His siblings mistakenly believed he could attend their court appointment, and unfortunately that was not the case. I understand one of the Commission's goals is to collaborate with surrounding communities. This might be a key opportunity to work with cities like Liberal, where the mayor has already addressed his community publicly on this issue. Even if it feels like time has passed, it is not too late to make a statement or to provide resources, reassurance, and information to our residents. Thank you you for your time and for your service to Garden City, and I hope you will consider this request, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Mayor and Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Tom Martian. I'm with the 4th Degree Knights of Columbus here in Garden City. For the past 14 years, the 4th Degree Knights of Columbus Assembly 297 has hosted a patriotic rosary at Stevens Park. We generally start around 11:30 a.m. following the annual 4th of July parade. We're usually completely done around 12:30 to 1. That includes setup, prayer, and cleanup. The purpose of this patriotic rosary is to pray for the governments, local, state, and federal, regardless of political views. We give thanks for the positivity that comes from our governments, as well as prayers for guidance during trying times. During most recent years, we've served water and cookies as refreshments. We hope to continue that. In the past years before, we've had hamburgers and hot dogs. However, we chose to stop this due to, 1, COVID, and 2, the potential of taking away businesses from local food trucks that have been in the area. This event isn't solely for those of the Catholic faith. The community is welcomed and encouraged to attend regardless of their faith or beliefs. Participation is not required, but those who have attended in the past can attest to the greatness of the event. We usually have around 120 people or so attend, and Knights of Columbus provide booklets to those who wish to. Is that my time? Okay.
No, you're okay.
Who wish to who wish to follow along. I will point out towards the 5th mystery, those that are not aware of how a rosary works here. There's 5 decades. Each decade has 10 states attached to it, so we do pray for every soul in the state, including those in power, elected power, I should say. We understand the reasoning behind not providing as many fee exemptions for events at Stevens Park and other city facilities, as it takes fiscal means to keep the city going. We are asking for an exemption to the fee usually imposed on events at Stevens Park. We are there for no more than 90 minutes, and from what I understand, the fee is for the entire day as of right now. All we need is the bandstand and an electrical outlet. We do go through and make sure the benches are all lined up, trash is picked up, and in some cases leave the area cleaner condition than how we find it. We appreciate your consideration for the exemption as we pray for our nation under God with liberty and justice for all. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Have you sent in a events request already?
I believe Rhonda Griffin has.
Okay. Have we seen that request yet on here today?
Yes, we do have the request. And just to comment on Tom's statement to you guys, the August 6, 2024 special meeting, we had a meeting and we spoke about special events and the fees, and the consensus was that we would move forward with not waiving the fee for park rentals. So it's $100 to reserve Stevens Park. That does not mean that people can't still attend the park and participate in activities at the park. It's just, it doesn't reserve the park for you. So it is a $100 fee, and we do have their event reservation application on file.
Thank you, and I do hope that the consideration is taken into effect based on the upcoming agenda item for Youth Empire Days also, which I also look forward to attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Great, seeing none, we will move on to our next item.
Item 6A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim May 4th through 10th, 2025 as Drinking Water Week in Garden City.
entertain it.
I don't, if there's any staff that wants to speak to that. If not, I can, after the motion, I can read the proclamation, Mayor or Vice Mayor.
Mr. Fred Jones is coming up.
I can speak briefly on it. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The governing body is asked to consider and approve the mayor to proclaim May 4th through 10th, 2025 as Drinking Water Week in Garden City, Kansas. For many years, American Water Works Association and its members have celebrated Drinking Water Week as an opportunity for water professionals and the communities they serve to join together in recognizing water's vital role in our lives. Drinking Water Week is celebrated the first week of May each year.
Yeah, I move that we approve the proclamation declaring May 4th through the 10th, 2025 as Drinking Water Week in Garden City, Kansas.
All right, I'll read the proclamation, and following the proclamation, commissioners, if you want to step down and take a photo, that'd be great. Fred, anybody else that wants to join you in the picture is welcome as well.
Actually, before you start,
Yeah.
we just will be doing the proclamation. A photo is not necessary.
Okay. All right. So whereas water is our
Matt, hold on. I think we need to take a vote.
Oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
There's a
Motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life of our citizens enjoy, and whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of drinking water, or a member of the distribution crew maintaining the infrastructure communities rely on to transport high-quality drinking water from its source to consumers' taps. And whereas the City of Garden City is also embarking on new projects to increase water reuse and provides programs to encourage water conservation, to preserve water needed for drinking water, for health, hydration, and hygiene needs. And whereas we are all stewards of our source of water and the infrastructure upon which current and future generations depend. And whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of our city, I do hereby proclaim May 4th through 10th, 2025 as Drinking Water Week in the City of Garden City, encouraging all citizens of Garden City to seek information about their water supply and its role in the community. Signed and sealed the 6th day of May, 2025.
Great.
Item 6B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the mayor to proclaim May 4th through 10th as Professional Municipal Clerks Week in Garden City, Kansas.
I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Mayor, I move to approve the proclamation as presented.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I do want to say we're blessed to have our clerks we have, and just all the, I know they've served the state and actually nationally and internationally, so it's kind of exciting to have the staff we have, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And then I will read the proclamation. Whereas the office of professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal services to all, and whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the informational center on functions of local government and community, and whereas professional municipal clerks continue to strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Tom Wynn, Vice Mayor of the City of Garden City, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 10th, 2025, as the 56th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week in the City of Garden City, and encourage all citizens to extend appreciation to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Signed and sealed this 6th day of May 2025.
You all want to take a picture?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
With our beloved clerks.
You are.
Item 6C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim May 11th through 17th, 2025 as National Police Week in Garden City.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Mayor, Commissioners. The governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor, or the vice mayor in this case, to proclaim May 11th through the 17th, 2025 as National Police Week in Garden City. Since 1962, the United States has recognized May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which that date falls is National Police Week. This is a time for police officers to honor their fallen colleagues as well as remember their commitment to keeping their communities safe. The Garden City Police Department annually honors the fallen law enforcement officers throughout the nation, as well as those who continue to serve during National Police Week. Alternatives before you today: number 1, the governing body may approve the proclamation as presented. Number 2, the governing body may reject the proclamation, provide direction. Recommendation is from staff is that you approve the proclamation, and I'll answer any questions.
When is that Memorial date? Do you have the date?
So we're gonna have an appreciation luncheon on the Thursday of that week at the Law Enforcement Center. And I'll get many times, but I think it's from noon to 1.
Sure. Yeah, I move that we approve the proclamation as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And I have a lot of my friends here that would love a picture with you guys.
Great. Let me read this proclamation. Whereas there are nearly 1.3 million law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Garden City Police Department, and whereas over 79,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 20,000 injuries, and whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, over 26,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, and whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. And now, therefore, I, Tom Wynn, Vice Mayor of the City of Garden City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 11th through 17th, 2025 as National Police Week, and publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. We further support law enforcement communities while honoring officers who made the ultimate sacrifice in line of duty. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to keeping the public safe. Signed and sealed this day of May 2025.
See the camera, you can't
Just
see
barely.
me.
Thank you.
Item 6D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim the week of May 18th through 24th as National Public Works Week in Garden City, Kansas.
Oh, Tyler's coming up.
Yep, sorry about that. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. So this year's theme for the National Public Works Week is People, Purpose, and Presence. It highlights the three cornerstone ideals that motivate public works professionals to serve their communities every day. Meeting the needs of people is what gives public works its sense of purpose. Many times, public works professionals will never meet those whose lives have been impacted, because when things are going right, no one knows that the public is there yet. Yet with or without fanfare, public works is ever present, working in the background to advance quality of life for all. And to celebrate this year's National Public Works Week, the Public Works Department will hold its annual Touch a Truck event Saturday, May 24th, 2025 at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be in front of the Clarion Inn at 1911 East Kansas Avenue. And during that time, we'll have several different pieces of equipment, staff there, and showing off some of our equipment and taking pictures with the community and having a good time. So I'd like to invite anybody who can come out that day to join us. Alternatives here, we have one, the governing body to approve the proclamation as presented, or two, the governing body may not approve the proclamation. Staff recommends the governing body approve the proclamation.
I'll make the motion to approve the proclamation as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Like the few before, I'll read the proclamation. Afterwards, you can take a picture with some of our Public Works folks. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Garden City. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for building, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Garden City to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest in understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now, therefore, I, Roy Sisson, Mayor of the City of Garden City, do hereby proclaim May 18th through 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week in the City of Garden City, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association and government agencies and activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Signed and sealed this 6th day of May 2025. Fast one, the picture.
I did want to say that the Touch a Truck event is incredibly attended, and every year it's a highlight down there. And I mean, there's so many people that attended. So last year it was packed out, but it's a lot of fun. So you get to be up close to things that you will never get well, you probably won't get to drive them, but at least you'll get to see them. So.
There are no more weeks left in May to claim as your own, so the building safety people have taken the liberty of claiming the whole month. They're asked to proclaim May 2025 as Building Safety Month.
I'll entertain a motion for this item.
So moved.
I'll second.
There's been a first and second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. then I'll read this proclamation here. Whereas the City of Garden City is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depend on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings make up our community is achieved through the devotion of building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, and federal officials who create and implement the highest quality codes and standards to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes and standards include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as snowstorms, tornadoes, and floods. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about our code officials who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Game On, the theme for the Building Safety Month 2025, encourages us all to get involved and raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, and federal building safety and fire prevention departments in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Tom Wynn, Vice Mayor of the City of Garden City, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Building Safety Month in the City of Garden City and encourage all citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. Signed and sealed the 6th day of May 2025.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner, if I may just say quick something. We have several from the association and our staff that would like a photo. Construction, home building, all the progression that we're seeing is a major priority for the city. If our wonderful job force doesn't make it home safely, then we're going to run out of workforce to build what we need to be built. So we do want to promote safety, not just May, but every month, every day, and make sure they come home safe. So that's what our staff is here to do. That's what the association is here to promote as well. Just for those that are listening, the second Thursday of every month, the Builders Association does promote and support and put on a lunch and learn, and we always have training topics that help our industry do better. So with that, you'll come down, we'll have a photo. They were so excited.
I know, I could tell.
That's what we're about.
Yeah, that's right.
Item 6F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the following requests from Bonita McClure, Executive Director at Beef Empire Days. The waiver of the $2,500 carnival deposit fee and $300 per day daily fees from May 16th to the 25th, 2025.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners, the governing body is asked to consider, as Matt stated, the following request from Bonita McClure, who's here, Executive Director of Beef Empire Days. And as we discussed earlier at the August 6th pre-meeting, 2024, we discussed that the city would no longer waive park rental fees for Stevens Park. So that's normally one of the fees that Beef Empire Days waives. So this year they're just coming before you for the waiver of the carnival deposit fee and then also the per day charge that the city has. So the deposit is $2,500 and then the $300 per day for the carnival fee. So that is the request that they have in. All the other requests that they have are usually administered by staff, which includes blocking off the street for truck wagons in the park, different things like that that the staff on administrative level can handle. before you, your alternatives are, you may approve the request as submitted, you may approve any combination of the one request, or you may deny the request as submitted. Staff has no recommendation. Again, just a reminder, it's $300 a day for the carnival fee, and it will be open for 10 days, I believe. And then the $2,500 waiver. And the $2,500 waiver, I think, was in place many years ago when carnivals would come to town and plaster their signs all over windows downtown and stuff, and they don't really do that anymore, so. But we did have that waiver in place, and obviously Wendy was here if you guys have any questions for her.
I come because the first year I didn't come. And had to come and ask forgiveness, that's why I'm
Yeah,
here.
no, we love it.
I remind you, I'm trying to do the right thing.
That's right, that's right.
Beef Empire Days is celebrating 57 years this year. It's a big time for us. May 30 through June 8th are all of the activities. The carnival always comes early because of conflicts of other locations, but we think it's a nice lead-in. We have 10 days of carnival, then we have 4 days to catch our breath, and then the craziness starts. All of the activities that we had last year will be bigger and better than ever, but we start off with the carnival, and that's what we're here asking for the waiver for.
So I know is this your third year leading at Beef Empire? So, yeah, so has it gotten any easier, or
Oh, I
just?
told you that a week ago. It's gotten kind of crazy this last week. You know, when things go well, people
Yeah.
want to be part of your game.
Yep.
And I'm getting calls now of people who didn't get requests in, and they want to bring things, and some pretty big things have come with the rodeo. We're pretty excited about that.
Exciting.
It's brought a lot of attention to Garden City, to our community, and to the beef industry. And, you know, I don't have to tell you how important the beef industry is. There's hardly anybody in this town that doesn't have some connection to the beef industry or an allied industry. And that's what we're celebrating, and I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of good beef to eat during
Great.
this event.
Oh,
Thank you. We would
Thank you.
appreciate a waiver. That helps us an awful lot with all the expense and everything that we have. The park waivers are not a problem. We can deal with that, but this would help an awful lot. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I move that we approve the request as submitted.
I second.
So I have a question on this. So could you explain these two fees for me a little bit better? I'm having a hard time kind of putting the dots together. So there's the carnival deposit fee and then the $300 daily fee, right? So does Beef Empire get back that deposit fee? Is that correct?
In the past, the governing body has waived both fees, so we don't collect. Normally, the $2,500, if we'd ever collected it, probably when I first started as city clerk, we would get a check, and then we would go, our NDS department would go around and make sure there was no signs that were still posted, or posters that were still posted up anywhere, and then we would just return their check. Recent years, I think we've waived fees for the 2 carnivals that come to town, so, but yeah, the daily fee, it's just kind of similar to your other fees that we have in place, like the taxi service, running a business, but yeah, it's $300. We didn't look around, we asked a couple cities just to compare, and that might be something we bring back at a later date, as far as changing the fees. $300 is kind of simple.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the other cities that we looked at already, so, but that's a different discussion day.
Are there any further discussion on this?
I would be okay. I mean, I know we did have a special meeting on August 6th to kind of determine that we would not waive carnival fee or park fees just because of the amount of work that staff puts into, you know, that goes along with being involved in these events. So I'd like to stick with that, but I wouldn't be opposed to maybe just waiving the $2,500 deposit fee, since that seems not to be the case of plastering, you know, posters all over town. So, but yeah, the $300 we could probably look at a later date, but now it's set at $300 per day. So that's my thought on that.
Well, I know some of the fees, like the other fees that they are paying, is that correct? The Stevens Park fees and those kind of things, they are paying, so we're not waiving all the fees. The $300 fee is a per day for,
Per day for the carnival, for 10 days.
that's for the carnival, it's not for the parks or any of those, and they're really, is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct.
Right,
And that's why
so,
we brought it forward.
Right, I don't think there's, like, for our staff on the carnival, I don't think that's as big a,
Yeah, I think I would kind of lean towards, especially if it's for the carnival, that to waive the carnival deposit fee and then keep the daily fees, but we'll take a vote on this. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Nay. So that's a 2-2 vote. Motion does not pass.
I'd make the motion to waive the $2,500 deposit fee and keep the $300 day fees for the carnival.
So before I second that, you said you had indicated that you had checked with other cities and the $300 is pretty steep. Because, Beef Empire Days really represents Garden City in the area. And so again, I mean, this idea of really promoting the beef industry, which is really what is probably the bedrock other than agricultural of our community. So, I mean, $300 seems really steep. And I said in the past, we've never really charged this fee. So here, they're going to have to come up with another $3,000, was it $3,000?
10 days, yeah.
I didn't use my calculator, I might have needed to, but, you think about this idea, so I mean, I'm just saying, had we, and I understand in the past that we've always waived these fees, and so this is I understand if you wanted to go ahead and motion
Am I
that.
allowed to add something? We already pay $3,600 to rent the fairgrounds for the carnival. We pay them and we pay all the trash pickup. So I don't know what additional, we pay the county $3,600 to rent the fairgrounds for the carnival to be on. We pay all the trash fees for everything that's dumped during that time to the fairgrounds that is collected and I think paid to the county. So I'm not really certain that I know where there's additional cost to the city for this. That's my only concern on it.
Is there some sort of maybe, so where we can help Anita understand the fees, where those go? Is there a certain amount that we have to send officers out there on a daily basis or barricades out there that would add up to that cost?
We do barricade Lake Avenue, I believe, for the parade. And,
Not for the carnival.
sorry, not for the carnival, for the parade only. There are electrical services that the city staff works on, and I'm not 100% sure on what all is provided by the electric department, but our electric department does go out and make sure that there's hookups for,
At the county, on the county property?
on the fairgrounds, yes.
Yes, the three very east poles are on the cities, so I don't think they're set that far. As far as the carnival setup, when they come into town, they're more over onto the county side for their services. So I think you're right. I don't think they're actually on city, but I could be wrong. I think after just discussing about it, we're kind of understanding what those fees may look like. But if we had kind of a clarity on those costs or expenses, then that would maybe help determine the route we should take.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm considering is the carnival is for profit, right? The funds for the carnival goes to the profit of who's bringing the carnival in. Is that correct?
We get a percentage of it. It comes to the not-for-profit Beef Empire Days. That's part of our sponsorship donation fees.
Do you know how much percent that is, Benita?
Do I need to share that?
That's up to you. I was just wondering.
It's a significant, decent amount of money.
Okay.
It's part of the funding for the festival. I'll just say that.
Does the funding also for that go towards, do they still have the Beef Empire Day scholarships as well? Does some of that, the
one-
Beef Empire Day scholarships?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Yes, all of the funding from the events and from our sponsorships go to all of the events that we put on, to the promotion that we do, as well as the scholarships and everything that Beef Empire does throughout the entire year. Our entire organization is run by sponsorship and donation.
But you are a not-for-profit,
We are
aren't
a
you?
not-for-profit,
Right,
but we are
exactly.
501c5,
C5.
which is educational and agriculture.
I'm gonna have Jimmy look up if the origin of the rate is critical to bringing some resolution to item 6F. We'll look up the date that the $300 per day was established. My guess it was some time ago. If it's within our ability to search the agenda item, we might be able to find some language speaking to the arrival of that amount. Otherwise, we won't have it. Or it'll be in the salt mines and be pretty tough to go retrieve. I do think, Selim pointed out that the establishment of this fee wasn't related to Beef Empire Days. It was related to carnivals when you had an outside business coming to town. I would say the equivalent of our park fee is sort of the fairgrounds fee. Counties rarely, if ever, waived the fairground fees. I think we treated that same way with our parks, and that was what in August you directed was those park fees. I would say the carnival fee is not a park fee. The carnival fee is another fee, like a itinerant merchant's license or a food truck license or some other thing. You did not give direction in August. My memory is you did not give direction in August on carnival fees. You did give direction on park fees.
Matt, it looks like this fee originated with the General Code in 1968, was last amended in 2009. Without doing a deeper dive, though, I don't know specifically what those amendments would be.
I do remember the general discussion in 2009 around fees were, I didn't know if it increased then. Did it increase then, or did it probably increase then, I would guess?
I can't tell,
Yeah,
but
I can't tell.
I would bet that it was an increase.
I would think that would have been following 2007, 2008, which would have had us focused on other revenue sources other than property tax and sales tax. So there was probably an across-the-board increase of fees. And also at that point in time, one of two other times other than last August, I can remember the city saying, hey, if we're going to have fees, we're going to charge them because we're spending half of our meetings waiving the fees that we said we're going to charge. And then after about 5 years, it goes back to our meeting being full of waiving charges again. And then we recommit to, no, we're going to charge the charges. August was an abbreviated version of that saying, when it comes to the rental of parks, the preserving of parks, Sealand's right, you can use Stevens Park all you want. You don't need to pay to use Stevens Park. If you want the exclusive use of Stevens Park, then you need to pay to reserve that. And the commission's position in August was, it doesn't matter if you're a not-for-profit, if you're a private operation, if you're a school, a church, or whatever, the using the park for your exclusive purpose and reserving it is what the fee's for.
And I know that they are paying that park fee, so.
Well, they're not paying a park fee because they're not at the park. They're paying a fairgrounds fee to the
Right, but I'm saying but according to Sealand, that they are paying for Stevens Park, they are paying the park
Yes.
fees for Stevens Park.
Yes.
And so the whole thing with this, with Beef Empire Days, again, this carnival isn't like a carnival that's coming in to make money off of our city. It's a carnival that's actually benefiting a not-for-profit, which really has supported one of the major industries in our community. So that's the thing why I'm saying where I think the waiver of that, now we've already defeated that. I mean, we can lower that fee down and we have that ability. But again, I think this idea is this is really not benefiting the carnival itself. And I understand that that's what that fee was, and they've already paid the fairgrounds for that $3,600, which they don't, well, I know they don't waive that, but I mean.
I understand, and I know that there's a motion on the table, so if that dies, then we can move on to another motion. if there's no second, so I'll let
Yeah.
that work out.
So is there a second for this item?
And just for everybody's benefit, I've got the motion as being the waiver of the 2,500 carnival deposit fee in requiring the payment of the $300 per day.
Correct.
Seeing no second, that motion dies. I will entertain another motion.
For further discussion, just a bit more, and I believe, are you suggesting or implying that there might be a reduction in that fee then to offer, or?
Well, I voted
go
for
back to
a
your-
waiver of all the fees.
Right.
So, I mean, that's really ultimately what I wanted, but I mean, as far as this is concerned, yeah, reduction is something, I mean, it's unfortunate because we've already voted down that motion to waive
Yes.
them all.
I believe that there's still some costs associated with, even our police officers who go down and patrol that area because of the carnival and instances and things. I mean, a reduced fee I'd be okay with. It's after the conversation that we've had, kind of a clarity on what we actually have as expenses is unknown at this point, but maybe at a reduced fee and at a later date, we can come back, or maybe for next year, it comes back at a different rate for fee or no fee at all for that matter, so. I would entertain to waive the $2,500 deposit and reducing the $300 per day daily fee to $100 per day daily fee from May 16th through the 25th. That's my motion.
The motion is to waive the 2,500 carnival deposit and to have a fee of $100 per day from May 16th through May 25th. Is there a second? I second. There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion does not pass.
So I move that we waive the $2,500 carnival deposit fee and a $50 per day daily fee from May 16th through May 25th, 2025.
There's been a motion for the alternative one.
Just to clarify, it was $2,550 per day, correct? So you're waiving.
Waiving the
25
fee and then just a $50 per day.
Yeah. So waiving the fee and $50 per day. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So that is for a waiver of the $2,500 carnival deposit and then a fee of $50 per day.
Thank you. Item 6G, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Eric Sinatiempo on behalf of Appliance and Furniture Mart for a waiver to the parking requirements and temporary structure requirements to allow a tent from May 3rd to 11th, 2025 at 1117 Fleming Street to hold a tent and sidewalk sale. I will say that this item mirrors requests in the past, and they did submit on time. We lost track of the 3 weeks between the second meeting in April and the first meeting in May. So this was this not getting in on the last meeting in April wasn't Eric's issue. We've administratively approved this first half of this time, so there's one half approval and one half forgiveness in this item.
Great.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6H, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Jax for a waiver of the noise ordinance for the Beef Empire Days Rodeo Concert at 209 Lake Avenue on Saturday, May 31st, 2025, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Joshua Wadle with Jax requested to have a waiver of the noise ordinance, and per compliance with Code Section 62-21, the city manager can approve up until 11 p.m. However, since they wanted to go later till 2 a.m., we brought this before you. So before you were requesting a waiver of the noise ordinance, for the Beef and Paradise Rodeo Concert on May 31st from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. This would be following obviously the rodeo that Benita just discussed. The governing body may approve the request as presented, or you may deny the request. Staff has no recommendation. This is similar to the events that Jack's sponsored last year. However, last year they sponsored it at their location. So the noise waiver ordinance, still it comes into play. However, last year we waived, I believe I thought I put this in the memo, I apologize. We waived till 12:30 for the first group of concerts that they had, and then the second group of concerts they had, we waived until 1 a.m. And I don't believe we had any noise complaints that I'm aware of.
So last year, one of the big kind of arguments that Jax had was they needed time to get from the fairgrounds to Jackson. So then by the time that they arrived to Jax, there wouldn't be enough time for any event to take place. So just some context for us from last year.
So the 209 Lake Avenue, I'm sorry, where is that?
It's the fairgrounds.
Okay, I didn't even know what the fairgrounds was, okay.
I anticipate
Yeah,
the concert
okay.
at the grandstand.
Right, okay.
Does anybody?
I believe they would be between the grandstands and the exhibition building is where they've had their concerts previously on the courtyard area.
Yeah.
This application would be just for that Saturday, May 31st.
Correct.
Yeah, I appreciate them holding it down there. I think and then they won't lose all the people, and I think this will be a lot better transition, and it will be. I move that we approve the request as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6I, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Steve Jesse with Midnight Oasis to allow under code section 6.1 possession, consumption, and sale of cereal malt beverage or alcoholic liquor during Food Truck Friday at Stevens Park from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the following dates, and they're listed below in your cover memo.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Steve Jesse with Midnight Oasis approached the city clerk's office and requested, after speaking with Downtown Vision, to set up his mobile liquor cart at Stevens Park for Food Truck Fridays. If you recall, he did come last year, and he was at, I believe, one event last year. He is still required to set up a 3D barrier, and that is where the alcohol has to stay, and Mr. Jesse does understand that. Per the City of Garden City Code Ordinance, Section 6-1, it's unlawful consumption or possession of alcohol in public areas, specifically in any park. And like, this was approved last year. So these are the dates, those are the times, 11 to 7 at Food Truck Friday. The governing body may approve the request as presented, or you may deny the request. Staff has no recommendation.
Did we have any issues with this last year?
I don't believe so.
Was the time last year the same from 11 to 7? Do you recall?
That is the time of Food Truck Friday.
Okay, but his request for last year's was the entire time of the Food Truck Friday event. It was from 11 to 7 p.m. I was just curious.
I would have to go back and look for
Okay.
sure, but as I recall, it was just during Food Truck Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know that he was there at 11 a.m.
Right, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the request was from during Food Truck Friday only.
Okay.
Is there a motion for this item?
I'll make the motion to approve the request as presented.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6J, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a waiver to the code ordinance, section 6212, to allow the discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City, July 1st through the 5th, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Chief Ersick.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. Earlier this year, Kansas legislature changed the laws in relation to the sale of fireworks. As part of the new law, the state expanded the authorized fireworks season to now begin June 20th and end July 7th. While this changed the state allowance, cities and counties are still able to dictate the specific dates of sale and discharge locally within their respective time. The discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City has been a long-standing option for the citizens during the 4th of July holiday. Historically, the sale of fireworks in Benton County has been permitted June 27th through July 5th, and the city commission has approved a waiver to the Code of Ordinance 6212, allowing the discharge of fireworks within the city limits July 1st through July 5th, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Benton County will consider dates of their sales May 5th, 2025. Board of County Commissioner meeting. The Garden City Fire Department and Garden City Police Department will spend a significant amount of time canvassing fireworks stands, tents, and/or buildings to get information in the hands of consumers regarding what is to be allowed and discharged in the authorized dates. Additionally, GCFD and GCPD staff utilize social media campaigns heavily, as well as canvass neighborhoods throughout the city to ensure proper rules and regulations of discharge of fireworks are understood and followed. The collaboration between GCFD and GCPD in conducting proactive patrolling and allowing the communication with the public has resulted in positive feedback from the community. The alternatives before you, city governing body may approve the waiver of Ordinance 62-12 to allow for discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City, Kansas during the date of July 1st to the 5th, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Alternative 2, the governing body may approve a waiver of Ordinance 62-12 allowing the discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City, Kansas from the beginning date of sale June 20th through July 7th from the hours 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The governing body may not approve the waiver of ordinance to allow the discharge of fireworks within the city limits of Garden City. Staff recommends the governing body approve allowing the discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City, Kansas from the dates July 1st to the 5th within the hours of 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. We have any questions you may have.
So I always am curious. I know that Southwind is, I know it's outside in the county, but it actually is a big giant neighborhood. So just like, Towns Riverview, and then there's the North on North Third. And I'm always curious why, they don't, fireworks overall, I think, I think they're great as far as within a certain period of time. But I'm curious why those entities or those areas never have to really deal with any fireworks because they're out in the county. Yet our city has to deal with all the fireworks here. So I'm curious about why they've never asked to be able to pop fireworks or?
They do every year. They have pop fireworks in Towns Riverview, Sagebrush, and Southland. This year.
Are they allowed to because they're in the county? Okay, I always thought.
Recommendation from the county this year was to ban the fireworks in the county and allow authorized sales 27th through the 5th. We're requesting the discharge of fireworks.
Yeah, I appreciate that, yeah.
We're watch the drought index and we'll report back to county commission 2 weeks prior to 4th of July. And if drought looks good, we'll go ahead and lift the ban.
Yeah, today looks great. But
Those today would be fine.
Right. No, I appreciate you limiting the dates. I would move that we approve the discharge of consumer fireworks within the city limits of Garden City during the date range of July 1st to July 5th, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So Chief, could you, I just caught that. You said that the county approved for sales through June 27th to July 7th, or July 5th. Okay.
Banning the discharge, but re-evaluating the drought index 2 weeks prior to 4th of July, whether to have a recommendation to lift the ban or keep it enforced.
Great.
Because I know that they said harvest is going to be early this year, or they think. So, which, boy, I'd hate to see people's crops.
Yeah, but. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Under Section 7, report of the city manager, no presentations, just reports. If you have any questions on those, we can address them. Hearing none, meetings of note, lots of things stacking up in the month of May. If any of those require RSVPs, please do those through the city clerk's office. think we're ready for the appropriation ordinance, item 9A. If approved, it would be appropriation ordinance number 2586-2025A.
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 2586-2025A.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10A.
10A. Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance resolution. If approved, it would be resolution number 3183-2025 and abate conditions at 601 North Taylor. We'll go through the agenda item cover memo on this one. Looking for a staff member to
Here
do
she
that.
comes.
Alicia has come in.
And on the following items, we'll simply read the resolution number, state the address, and then you might scan the crowd, Vice Mayor. And if someone's here to talk on one of those items, you would want to make that known by raising your hand or jumping up and down or doing something.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor and Commissioners, the governing body of the City of Garden City has declared it unlawful for any person to maintain nuisance conditions on private property within the City of Garden City. It's been determined that, Matt, if you don't mind scrolling back my iPad. Thanks. Has been determined that the residence located at 601 North Taylor Avenue has environmental nuisance conditions on the property and is in violation of the city's environmental code. There is an indoor furniture, a dresser, miscellaneous items under the carport, boxes, bins, and a washer, and items scattered throughout the right-of-way. Staff has visited the property on many occasions. The property owner and residents were notified through a courtesy letter sent on March 28th, 2025, and a certified order of violation sent April 15th, 2025. The property owner and the residents were unable to be reached, and no contact was attempted by the property owners according to section 38-137 of the Environmental Code of Ordinances, and have neither abated the nuisance conditions nor requested a hearing before the governing body. The attached resolution will allow staff to mitigate the environmental nuisance on this property. Your alternatives today are the governing body may approve the attached resolution, or the governing body may not approve the attached resolution. For the fiscal note, the abatement costs incurred by the city shall be charged against the lots of parcels of ground on which the environmental nuisance is located.
Is there a motion for resolution number 3183-2025?
I just want to make a little bit of a comment just to make sure, there's a lot of these on our agenda, so just, if there's anybody in the crowd and wants to come up and talk on their behalf, then they have a little time. Seeing none, I'll just make the motion to approve resolution number 3183-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Alicia. Item 10B, if approved, would be resolution 3184-2025, abating conditions at 910 North 13th.
Is there anyone in the audience for this item?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 3184-2025.
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10C, if approved, would be resolution 3185-2025, abating conditions at 318 North 12th.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve resolution number 3185-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Motion passes.
Item 10D, if approved, would be resolution number 3186-2025, and abate conditions at 602 Buffalo Jones.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 3186-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10E, if approved, would be resolution number 3187-2025, abating conditions at 511 North 12th.
Is there anyone here for this item? I'll entertain for a motion for this item.
Move that we approve resolution number 3187-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10F, if approved, would be resolution number 3188-2025, abating conditions at 516 North 13th.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve resolution number 3188-2025.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10G, if approved, would be resolution 3189-2025, and abate conditions at 518 North 13th Street.
Is there anyone here for this item?
I make the motion to approve resolution number 3189-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10H, if approved, would be resolution 3190-2025, abating conditions at 520 North 13th Street.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none?
I move to approve resolution number 3190-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10I, if approved, would be resolution number 3191-2025, and abate conditions at 611 West Fulton Street.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none?
Move that we approve resolution number 3191-2025.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 10J, if approved, would be resolution 3192-2025, abate conditions at 514 Inge.
Is there anyone here for this item? Seeing none?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 3192-2025.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
As indicated on the agenda, item 12A was a 1:30 public hearing that was canceled. Just more on that in the future. I think the city's bond counsel and developer's attorney agreed that the notice of public hearing and the continuation of that public hearing had gone on without some prerequisite information being sent back from the State Department of Commerce. And so all agreed that the best course of action would be to cancel that public hearing and restart the process once we've received back the information from the Department of Commerce that we thought we were going to have in our possession 6 to 8 weeks ago when we thought, when we first set the notice of public hearing. So there'll be an action on a future agenda item that sets a notice of public hearing and sort of restarts it, just like the action that I think you took in maybe in March. 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve preparing the proposed 2026 city budget to include the first of a 2-year funding commitment to Garden City Community College for the creation of a building trades program. In 2024, Garden City Community College approached the city of Garden City to consider funding assistance for the creation of a construction trade center and program that would target and equip students that could be trained and placed in the workforce to satisfy industry demands, particularly as it related to housing construction. While the City Commission expressed interest in doing so, eventually the funding was not part of the adopted 2025 annual budget. Garden City Community College is again requesting the city to consider funding for the start of this program. The college has secured funding from Finney County in the amount of $200,000 and is pursuing other philanthropic gifts. In conversations with Dr. Ruda regarding the possible structuring of funding from the city of Garden City, he has agreed that if the city approves funding, the $100,000 could be divided into two $50,000 payments made late January of 2026 and 27, which would allow the City Commission to spread the $100,000 payment over 2 budgets. The attachment shows the community college's intended rollout of the construction trades program as presented last year. Dr. Ruda advises that this overview still represents the design and intent of the program and is in its rollout, with the exception of the program's estimated cost now being $2 million, of which they have raised to date $1.4 million. The City Commission articulated 2 goals in the adopted 2025-2026 Strategic Goals and Objectives Plan, in which the category of external relationships and partnerships that would suggest that this partnership with GCC to establish a trades program is warranted. First is relationships with Finney County, GC3, State of Kansas, federal government, St. Catherine Hospital. The second is continue to partner with the GC3 trades program. The city also has a strategic goal category titled Business Development and Housing Development, with the highest priority objective being the construction of 4,000 housing units by 2030, a continuation of a goal from 3 years ago. It is reasonable to conclude that partnering with GC3 in the manner requested would be a step towards helping reach those housing construction goals and objectives. If the governing body approves preparing the proposed 2026 budget with the first of a 2-year $100,000 funding commitment to GC3, then staff will add a total of $50,000 to be drawn from the Electric Reserve Fund. The reasoning behind the use of the Electric Reserve Fund is twofold. One, with the increased housing construction will come increased base charges and user fees that help justify the investment. And 2, it is possible if the program could generate trades workers that may find interest in working for the city's utilities. Final approval of the funding commitment would be subject to appropriation through the adoption of the 2026 budget later this summer. Alternatives 1, the governing body may approve preparing the proposed 2026 budget to include the first of a 2-year funding commitment to the community college for the creation of a building trades program. Or 2, the governing body may decline the request to assist with the funding of a building trades program at the community college. Staff's recommendation is that the governing body approve preparing the 2026 city budget to include the first of a 2-year funding commitment to the college for the creation of a building trades program, $50,000 in 2026, and then $50,000 again next year in the preparation of the 2027 budget, both of those payments subject to appropriation. If approved, the proposed 2026 budget will be prepared to represent that amount from the electric reserve, and the same will occur in, again, the preparation of the 2027 city budget. We have representatives from the college here if you'd like to ask them questions. Dr. Ruda, also, if you want to kind of give an update. I think one question that I posed to you was, to the extent you're able to, could you share with us others who've contributed? My cover memo mentioned specifically Finney County, but who else is sort of publicly on board with the project?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Just a couple of things, just to provide some context, and then we'll get to Matt's question there as well. But just putting into context where we're at there with this program currently in construction trades. Currently, we have a 1-year program that is a certificate-based program. We're currently in the process of working through the state to expand that into a 2-year certificate as well as a degree program, which will allow some additional opportunities programming. Right now, with the need for this particular capital campaign, really comes on the heels of just pure space. Right now, we're only able to accommodate and meet the needs of 3 of the 9 area high schools that we have in our service area. We are limited in capacity to 20 students per year because of the shop space that we currently have. This particular project there will allow us to be able to expand and triple what our capacity would be. So we'll be able to go up to 60 students per year in the construction trades. In addition to this, we will also be working with the Kansas Board of Regents and requesting to bring on an electrical trades program, which will be an electrical training program that we plan to have in place starting this fall semester as well. So the space as part of this capital campaign project will be shop space and training space for construction trades expanding, as well as opportunities for electrical trades and some other trades as we go down the road as well. To the question that Matt had asked, again, in his opening, we are envisioning a $2 million goal for fundraising, which we have secured 1.4 at this point. Some of our funding partners at this point include the state of Kansas, the Finna Foundation, Mary Jo Williams Charitable Trust, Finney County, and then we also have Black Hills Energy, Southwest Kansas Builders Association, and numerous private donors through the Kansas tax credit program that we have for 1 more year secured to be able to sell the tax credits as well. So we've had a variety of grants, foundations, and private donors that have came, but all dollars towards this project will be privately raised or secured through grants, foundations, or private means. So, you know, as Matt had alluded to there, our request in front of the City Commission is for $100,000 to be able to help moving towards our goal with our anticipated goal of being able to secure these funds by the end of 2025 and being able to move to where we can start moving ground and start construction by spring of 26. So happy to answer any other questions.
Are there other community colleges in the area that are doing this type of work? Or, I mean, this expansion sounds incredible, but are there other community colleges that are offering or going to be able to offer everything that the Garden City Community College will
Not
be?
as well as Garden City Community College.
Well, that goes without saying, but yeah.
Yeah, there are, Dodge City Community College has a construction trades program, and then up in Goodland at Fortes Tech, Fortes Northwest Tech. Those are the 2 closest in proximity to us, but you know, we feel with what we've seen just in our partnerships with the high schools, there's a large pull factor, a large interest that regardless of the proximity to the other programs there, we still have the need identified.
No, I appreciate the idea of being able to recruit, you know, I mean, our local builders, but also even the city of Garden City, be able to recruit employees who are well-trained and we know they're trained in. So hopefully a partnership with some of the local builders and the city of Garden City would be beneficial too, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, with all of our technical programs, we have what's called advisory council. These advisory councils, they really provide the oversight and leadership and direction for each of our programs. So we have industry partners, we have Southwest Kansas Builders Association and others that are part of that and integral to helping look at curriculum and identify the needs and how we may need to improve upon each of our programs that we have.
Is there more questions for Dr. Ruda?
I just have a quick question for Matt on this one.
Yep.
So this is just preparing the budget. This isn't a full commitment to the funding, because that would be until the budget proposal in later this summer? So
Yeah,
according
I
to
would,
this- Okay.
yeah, I would say that the adoption of the budget, if this were still in there, would be your approval of moving forward with the commitment that you're identifying, wanting to draft your budget to include it, and upon approval of the budget, then that would be the authorization necessary to do the expense in January of 2026, and then again, and then we kind of go through the same routine in 2027. Or in the preparation of the 2027 budget. So if you ultimately get down to doing your 2026 budget, and you don't think that this makes the cut for what should be included in the 2026 budget, you'd have the authority to remove it. And it's really kind of an identification that this is a request for funding outside of the core services of the city. It is directly related, we believe, to some of the goals you've articulated for the city. But until we're sort of everything's shaking out in late July from a budgetary standpoint, you're really hamstrung to try to make that decision right now. I do believe in visiting with Dr. Ruda. It's still warranted bringing this to you in May to take an action that would show support, because they still have other funders that they're going to that are interested in the city of Garden City's level of support in this program. And so, being able to say, well, they've committed $100,000 subject to appropriation over the next 2 budgets is true and meaningful in the eyes of other people that might be considering funding this program, one of which they've asked for a letter of support this week for us to help their packet. So we'd be able to, instead of just say, yeah, we think it's a good program, we'd be able to say, well, we think it's a good program, and at this point in time, we're taking the steps to plan to help fund it.
And I appreciate for the investment. This type of investment really ties back and brings the community college back more within the operations of the city and how important it is. Sometimes you think that it operates in a silo, and I don't believe that's true at all. I think you guys are an integral part of our city, and so the thing I think is really neat about this is the idea that we can actually that you're tripling your capacity, which I didn't realize that was available. I didn't know how much, so that was one of my questions. But thanks for answering that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty great to see that it's not the impact of Garden City just itself, but the impact of the surrounding communities as far as the little towns like Lakin and Deerfield, Scott City, those places that have a local presence here in Garden City, that they can achieve that kind of quality of education and then continue to work here in Garden City. So it's great. I think it's a good partnership. So appreciate you putting the information together and talking with Matt and coming to some sort of a paper form of idea of what we can do to support each other and partner with each other to move forward. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is a really creative way to fund it, because last year was just really difficult with our budget season, but this is a very creative way where I think it can alleviate how we can fund this project. I will entertain a motion for this item.
I move that we approve preparing the proposed 2026 city budget to include the first of a 2-year funding commitment to the Garden City Community College for the creation of a building trades program, $50,000 in 2026 and $50,000 in 2027, subject to appropriation.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Ruda.
Dr. Ruda. Item 12C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a chattel loan agreement with Western State Bank. Manufactured home subdivisions are limited in Garden City, East Garden Village, and Prairie Wind, but account for a considerable percentage of existing housing stock as well as a considerable percentage of undeveloped lots within the city. Given the city's commission's articulated goal of 4,000 housing units by 2030 that has been present in the adopted strategic goals and objectives plan for the last several years, staff began discussions with the then prospective and now new owners of Prairie Wind about the incentives to infill vacant lots with improved housing stock. Those discussions led to city staff beginning discussions and negotiations in 2024 with Western State Bank to develop a local program with a corresponding chattel loan agreement that would assist home buyers in purchasing new manufactured home units with lower than normal down payment and placing those in existing vacant lots or replacing old stock in Garden City's manufactured home communities. The attached agreement is the product of those discussions and negotiations, subject to council's respective edits as to form, in particular a cleaning up of the table of contents. If approved, the city would appropriate $500,000 to be held by Western State Bank using an interest-bearing tool and would be available to Western State Bank as security against chattel loans they write for the prescribed purpose of the program. In the event of a default on a loan, the city's funds would be available to Western State Bank to draw from to make up for net losses following the repair and resale of the home on which the default had occurred. The program is anticipated to be used to fill a few dozen vacant lots quickly, but could have the potential of helping fill up to 200 more spaces in the community in the coming years if the program's use becomes popular for East Garden Village infill and existing stock replacement. Funding necessary to establish the $500,000 to be held by Western State Bank and available for drawdown will be expensed from the Community Trust Reserve. At the conclusion of the program, the $500,000, less whatever was required by Western State Bank to satisfy net losses, will be returned to the Community Trust Reserve. Alternatives, the governing body may approve the chattel loan agreement with Western State Bank, subject to the edits by legal counsel as to form. The governing body may not approve the agreement. Staff recommends approval, and the $500,000 appropriation necessary to establish the account in the Western State Bank will be accomplished by budgeting a $500,000 expense in the Community Trust Reserve. And I'll have Jared verify this if he can come into the room. I believe the existing balance is around $2.7 million. Upon conclusion of the program, the remaining funds will be returned to the Community Trust Reserve. Also to note, the interest at this point in time, all of our interest from our interest-bearing accounts goes into the general fund. We don't really at this point anticipate a change to that, although if we do, we could visit at a future date with the City Commission about if there is a depletion of this fund because of failure loans, do we have the interest go back and help heal up this fund? I think we feel pretty confident about the performance of this $500,000 to be able to sustain if it follows sort of the repayment history the Western State Bank's experience with chattel loans. I think we should be in good shape, but just one option that if it looks like there's a default rate higher than what's been experienced previously, that maybe that interest could go back into this fund. But at this point in time, I think we anticipate putting it into the general fund, just like we do all our other idle funds.
Hello. So our Community Trust Reserve, as you kind of recall in previous budgets, we use it somewhat as a funding mechanism for ongoing projects a lot of the time. So right now, the Safe Streets for All grant is coming out of that fund, and so the expectation of the balance would be about $2.3 million once that grant is finished and all the reimbursements come back in, and that should be in the next year. And so I believe current balance is about $1.7 million, but within the next while, we expect it to come back in and get back up to that 2.3. Historically, that fund has had around $1.5 million. It's kind of trickled up to the $2 million mark, and now we're above $2 million. As projects occur, sometimes there's extra revenue or extra things come in. We've kind of built that fund up. And you'll recall during our evaluation of whether the city's in a financial crisis or not, one of the metrics is whether that that Community Trust Reserve has that balance. And so the balance has to be there, or the City Commission has to have understanding and say that we've obligated it to something, but we know it's going to come back. And so choosing this fund to obligate that $500,000 will basically tie up $500,000 out of that fund's balance for the future years to be able to be used for those recurring projects. But everything we do with this fund generally has that ability to reinvest or come back. So at a net, if this were to totally collapse, the loss of the city, $500,000 would diminish your Community Trust Reserve down from what it's built up to, with the idea that we can then build it back up through other projects down the road.
Thank you, Jared.
And I know it said in there, what's the length of the agreement? Or I saw it in here somewhere and I can't remember now. How many years was it for?
I believe it's an evergreen agreement until both parties, but I can search to the term.
I didn't see if there was a term.
It's one of 34 pages has the answer to that. So while I'm scrolling to find that, Tyler Woodham with Western State Bank's also here, and I don't know if Tyler, if you want to volunteer anything or just stand for questions, now might be a good time while I'm scrolling.
If I walk slow enough, I won't have to answer the question.
Yeah, right. Nice try.
The way that we anticipate operating is evergreen with either party having an option to tap out. So obviously, we're hooked up for a 15-year loan. At the point that we say, at the point that this partnership
No, I appreciate it. I think this is a very innovative way to get affordable housing, and so that you're willing to jump in the housing market. I mean, that we can support you so that, you have the ability to make those loans. Now, will you still be going through the same loan process as far as these chattel loans go through the same loan process to keep them less risky, or how does that all work?
Yeah, we apply our standard underwriting
Okay.
process. It's really just a favorable term sheet is the way that it turns out, Troy. And really, that's really focused on the down payment.
Right.
Our research would suggest that the hurdle oftentimes is the difference between 3% and 20% down even at these price point.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the term is defined in section 8. There's, the termination is Tyler mentioned, is available to both parties there, and then there's the kind of what happens after you terminate that would still require some funds to be held that cover a sufficient percentage of the exposure as we originally defined it in the agreement. And then once that goes away, then, the city's funds would be fully returned.
So once these are obligated, basically we can't count them in the community trust, is that correct? And so that.
Correct. This would be shown as an expense.
Okay.
And really, under cash basis law, it'll be shown as an expense every year.
Right.
It won't mean you're expending $500,000
exactly.
every year, like, in year 2, then you've got $1 million, and in year 3, you've got $1 million. It would just, we have to show that every year as an
Just the
expense, and
carryover.
every year is subject to appropriation. So if you don't appropriate it, then you're effectively exercising 8.2 from the city's perspective, and then you're also required to do that in accordance with 8.3, which is the survival section.
I mean, I appreciate you thinking about, maybe the interest from this, because it comes from the community trust, going into the community trust rather than going into the general fund. So that could be a discussion that we could have, because that might be a better, then that basically we're making an investment out of the community trust, and then we're also showing, hey, this was a good investment just based upon our experience and your loan.
And I think when Finance Director Coolman and I talked about pros and cons of both,
Oh, I see.
we've kind of gotten a circular sort of argument with ourselves of just, we could both argue both sides of that. And we figured, well, that's a decision that the commission can make as we contemplate the final budget of where we land, because if you choose to put it in this fund, or back into this fund, or back into the community trust, that's fine. There's a consequence to your interest earnings in your general fund to that. Now, is it so big that you wouldn't do it? No, but we just need to be conscientious that there would be some implication to the general funds, that interest line item in the general fund that heretofore you've been getting that revenue, and then you would not get that revenue, but you'd be saying, well, it's better served trying to knock out this goal of ours, or better served building up the community trust reserve. We figured that's a budget decision. It's not really a decision of whether or not you want to do this particular chattel loan agreement.
Similar to buying a house, I guess, I'm just kind of, I'm talking out loud here, not really asking a question or anything, but maybe you can help me. With a regular house, you have your standard insurance policies that you have from having to have that. Does that increase at all for these type of manufactured homes, whether they be on slab or on a basement type of structure?
Maybe I'm not sure that I know the answer to this.
Okay.
I know that in our modeling, we estimated it to be the same, but we use a pretty broad figure of, we're estimating home loan insurance as well.
Okay.
And I didn't even know PMI, if it actually applies to these type of loans, so that, the mortgage company does not lose. I don't know if it, in this kind of, because it's under, generally 100,000 or less, but I didn't know if that applied, so you mean just further minimizing the risk, so.
Yeah, so we do not anticipate accessing the PMI market, the private mortgage insurance market, which is really a credit risk mitigation tool for the bank and therefore for the city in this case. We don't think that this is going to be accessible for this credit, both size and the underwriting, the dossier that we expect.
So how often will we revisit just to make sure this is working for both parties? Is it on an annual or a 6-month basis? So I'm just curious about, going back, just make sure that we're saying, hey, this really works for both of us, or this doesn't work, or we need to modify. Okay. I think it's a great idea. I move that we approve the chattel loan agreement with Western State Bank subject to edits by legal counsel as to form.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler. Item D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a passenger facility charge application for the Garden City Regional Airport. Rochelle.
Good afternoon. As Matt mentioned, this is the PFC application. It's actually the third application that we've submitted to the FAA for consideration. Basically, a PFC, passenger facility charge, is a $4.50 charge on anybody purchasing a commercial flight out of our airport. The airline processes that fee and sends us $4.39. We then take that funding revenue and put it towards our AIP costs per project. So this application would cover a past project, a completed project for the airport beacon, a current project of the ARC truck and equipment, taxiway A design, as well as snow removal equipment that we're currently building out. The application amount is $122,139, and it's a long process. About 6 weeks ago, you guys were introduced to the impose and use notice, and so we went through that process. We've had no public comments submitted, as well as the airline did not have any public comments as well. So through this process, the next round is to send the application to the FAA. Then there's about a 120-day processing that they go through to approve it or disapprove it, and that's the process for the passenger facility charge. So with that, you have the option to approve the application, not approve it, or provide guidance to staff. Staff recommends approving the application.
I really appreciate the details that you already have the planned expenditures, and that to me is just really, that's sound financial, and I just really appreciate that. It's not like a slush fund or anything like that, but there are actual things that are benefiting, necessary things that are benefiting our airport, so I really appreciate that.
Credit for that, that's all with the FAA rules and regulations.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, so,
yes.
yep.
Yep, thank you.
Are there any further questions for Rochelle?
I'll make the motion to approve the passenger facility charge or PFC application for the Garden City Regional Airport.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please note that Commissioner Ortiz is stepping down for item 12E.
Item 12E, the governing body is asked to consider and identify next steps for the Law Enforcement Center temporary relocation. Danielle.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. At the February 4th, 2025 City Commission meeting, the governing body directed staff to proceed with 2 concurrent processes related to the temporary relocation of the Garden City Police Department. The first was related to releasing a request for qualification, or RFQ, for a construction manager at risk, geared towards new construction. The second was begin lease and remodel negotiations with the property owner or designee of 1210 Fleming Street. As it relates to the RFQ for the CMAR process, on March 4th, 2025, the city released a public RFQ for CMAR for construction of a new temporary police facility. There were 3 proposals submitted, and all 3 firms were invited to participate in interviews on April 10th, 2025. After the interviews, each firm provided a sealed bid for the services being requested, which all included pre-construction fee, general conditions, and a CMAR fee. The selection committee scored each firm prior to opening the sealed bids. The chart below summarizes the price proposals submitted by each firm. It should be noted that the CMAR fee was calculated based on an estimated project cost of $8,500,000 and a 12-month construction period. The pre-construction scope includes assisting the city with a needs assessment, evaluation and selection of an architect, preliminary drawings, site location, and a cost estimate for the project. After the presentations, the selection committee selected Crosslink Construction. As it relates to the process with 1210 Fleming Street, staff were also directed to further develop a lease option for that property. To also consider using that as a temporary police facility. The facility is approximately 24,000 square feet with ample parking on site. The lease agreement outlines the roles and responsibilities of both parties. The initial term is for a 5-year period with the ability to extend an additional 5 years. The base rent is $18,500 per month and would increase by 10% to $20,350 per month if the lease is extended beyond the initial 5-year term. In addition to base rent, the city would be responsible for all utilities. However, the landlord would be responsible for payment of property taxes. If the city chooses to lease the facility at 1210 Fleming Street, the landlord would be responsible for coordinating with the contractor and design professional of their choosing to make necessary improvements required to house the Garden City Police Department. This is estimated to cost between $3,360,000 and $3,600,000. Finally, it should be noted that the city also has been given the option to purchase the facility at 1210 Fleming Street at a price not to exceed $4,820,000 if exercised on or before July 1 of 2025. The purchase price includes the entire parcel, which currently has 4 tenants producing $137,811 in rent annually. If the City Commission has a desire to proceed with this option, staff would bring back next steps at a future meeting. There are 4 alternatives before you today. 1, the governing body may authorize the City of Garden City and Crosslink Construction to proceed with pre-construction services for a new construction building for a temporary police facility. 2, the governing body may approve the lease between the City of Garden City and Dwayne Coster Trust and Kathy Coster Trust and ask the property owners to begin the renovation. 3, the governing body may approve purchasing the building at 1210 Fleming Street for a price not to exceed $4,820,000. Or 4, the governing body may provide alternative direction. Staff has no recommendation. The fiscal note associated with this item is relatively robust, so I'll go through each of those options. If the City Commission proceeds with pre-construction services with Crosslink Construction, there is no initial cost to the city for those services. Crosslink Construction would begin working with the city on a needs assessment, evaluation for an architect, preliminary drawings, site location, and a cost estimate for the project. That would be brought back to the City Commission at a future meeting. If the City Commission proceeds with the lease agreement for the property located at 1210 Fleming Street, the lease would begin upon a fully executed agreement. The monthly payments of $8,500 per month, which equates to $222,000 annually, would begin immediately. Additionally, the city would be responsible for the cost of the remodel, which, as I mentioned before, is anticipated to cost between $3,360,000 and $3.6 million. It is anticipated that the capital costs associated with the temporary police facility would utilize temporary notes or short-term bonds to finance the project. Discussions are ongoing with Finney County regarding the possible use of future sales tax proceeds should a ballot issue for a new law enforcement center and jail be approved by voters to reimburse temporary relocation costs for Garden City Police Department and Finney County Sheriff's Office. And included in your packet for consideration with this is obviously the lease agreement, but also the scoring summary. We do have representatives from both Crosslink Construction and Costers here if you have any questions for those groups as you consider this item before you. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So the way this is being presented is like an either or, and so I thought part of what I thought our discussion has been is a both and. So this idea of relocating them to a different location and then also continuing with the discussion about having a standalone police department in case that's something that we want to do. And I know with Crosslink Construction, but the way this is presented, it feels like it's an and or, and it can't be a and both, or no?
The way, so the action that came out of the February meeting was to pursue both a lease option for consideration,
Right.
which is the proposal for the 1210 Fleming Street, and also bring you a new construction option, which is what the RFQ for the construction manager at risk was intended to accomplish. That way you all, before you have considerations for both, an option to build a new facility or considerations to lease a facility for the Garden City Police Department over this kind of 8-year period that came out of the discussions at the pre-meeting several months back.
Right, because I know that we're going to need a temporary place, especially because when the sales tax is approved for the new jail, we're going to need a temporary place anyway. So to me, it makes sense to go ahead and approve the lease agreement, and then but also authorize the City of Garden City and Crossland Construction to continue to talk about, pre-construction about our own facility in case something would happen to where we wouldn't have that option.
So the last direction that I think my recollection from kind of the governing body as a whole is that our intent is to go back into the law enforcement center upon completion of the remodel. That project is being managed by Finney County. There are several kind of critical steps to their pathway forward to the financing of that particular project, one of which is the ballot initiative that you mentioned that we talked about at our joint meeting. So the Finney County is currently in the process of looking at what exactly that ballot language is going to look like for the voters of Finney County to consider during the November general election. That ballot language could include covering the cost for both the City of Garden City Police Department and the Finney County Sheriff's Office to relocate out of the LEC while those remodel efforts are going on at the law enforcement center.
I'm sorry, and that's not my recollection of what, I know you're telling me that, but that wasn't my recollection. Mine was that we were going to be doing these two paths moving forward with the hope that we could move back into the LEC. So I guess that's where I was asking for the either or. That's where I'm kind of confused.
Which I think is understandable too, but I think from what I understand, our decision was we're taking these two paths, and at some point we're going to have to put both feet into one path instead of just walking 2 feet along the way. At some point, we're going to have to jump into one side of the water.
Correct. At no point in my recollection of this over year-long discussion have we talked about building two temporary things. There would be some temporary thing, and with the commission having approved an agreement that says it's your intent to move back into the LEC at some point, in the two options that the last direction in February from the commission was to mature both a new construction solution and a remodel solution at 1210 Fleming. And at some point in time, both of those would be mature enough that the commission would feel comfortable choosing which one of those temporary paths it wanted to take.
Right.
But my estimation, it wouldn't make financial sense, nor would it make kind of operational sense to go through the pains of moving once to one temporary, moving again to another temporary, and then moving back into the LEC whenever that hits.
Well, I'm not talking about moving twice temporarily. I'm talking once moving temporary, and I'm talking the other thing, a permanent standalone home for the...
And at this point in time, the commission's unanimous support of an agreement with Finney County represents that a remodeled law enforcement center on 9th Street, once the jail is no longer there, is the city commission's intent to move back in.
And so the ballot language will reflect that we can reuse those?
The ballot language it hasn't been written yet, but based on the request of the state of Kansas, it's for a new jail and a remodeled law enforcement center.
So then it would mean that we would only have to move out to a temporary location and back in with the Finney County Sheriff's Department.
And where there's been expressed uncertainty by the city commission is, well, what happens if, the ballot issue doesn't pass? What happens if? And yeah, that's it's a possibility. Would at some point, if a ballot issue never passed on a county level, would the city be inclined to pursue a standalone? But I think it's unfair to the efforts of working together with Finney County to begin anticipating sort of that worst case scenario. But I do believe it's a possibility. I do not foresee that if the commission chose the 1210 Fleming address, that you would be excited about that being your police department for the next 20 years. I mean, I don't think, can it provide a suitable temporary solution? Yes. Can it provide a suitable temporary solution with the footprint necessary for both GCPD and the Finney County Sheriff's Office? Yes. But is it a good long-term home for both? I think both agencies would say no right now.
Yeah, the purchase, I think the purchase of it, I mean, that's expensive, and then also the remodel of it, that's almost the $8.4 million, which you could get a long way. So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that the remodel costs are that high. And so I know that they've offered, to do the remodels, but they didn't offer that at any discounted rate, or since we're...
So the per square foot is my understanding, and Danielle, that's a good question. I think it's important to note. The remodel is sort of this is the square foot of the whole building. No matter how much you use, this is the cost. And that is, I think there's a pro and a con to that. So the con right now is if it's just the PD that moves in, there's a lot of space we don't need.
Yeah.
But also it provides the footprint that if, and this door has reopened recently, that if FCSO wants to transition with us, whether that timing is exact or, in phases, there's plenty of footprint there for both agencies. And so I think that where that number comes from is like a 140 to 150 remodel cost.
Yeah, $140 to $150 per square foot for the 2,400 square feet of the facility.
Which we won't need to reuse all of that, is that correct?
It depends.
Unless if any kind of sheriff's office.
Yeah, the big multiplier there is the 2,400 square feet.
Yeah, that's, unless you have that available.
The price per square foot is what
you figured it off.
It's the total square footage of that. It's a big building.
It's huge.
Danielle or Matt, whichever one. On the estimated project cost of $8.5 million in a 12-month construction period, does that $8.5 million include purchasing land, or would that be separate? Be completely separate? Do we have, I'd even take a guesstimate on what land cost would be?
Again, it depends on what land we want to identify. And that's part of, if we went down that path of a new build, that we would consider with cross-link construction. And there's a couple different variables that we would consider and bring back to you all for the ultimate decision on that. One would be, again, kind of going back to that conversation of if our intent is to sell this building in the future, we may want to find a piece of property that on the front end is a little bit more expensive, but also will yield a higher purchase price on the back end. Or we could take a different approach and a different alternative and say, look, maybe we do want to reconsider property that the city already owns because we don't have to have an additional price for the cost of that land. So all of that would be done in pre-construction services with Crossland to say these are the pros and cons of these different sites to be able to have that conversation with you all to say, where's the value decision there? Do you want to kind of prioritize a lower cost on the front end, or do you want to prioritize being able to have a building that's a little bit more marketable on the back end?
And then on the lease, it does include an option to purchase.
Correct.
Included, okay.
Yes.
And it also has right of first refusal as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the option to purchase is very quick if you'd want to do that, but I'm like you, I don't think this is you'd have to make a very quick turnaround.
And they provided that at our request.
Oh, I see.
I think we said, well,
what if just in case?
If we were to.
I mean, I like this as a temporary home. I think it's, and we've got to, how long do you anticipate it before our police department could actually move into, if we approved the lease, how long before they could move in and be out of that so that?
So what I would say is, from the staff end, we will try to move as quickly as we can. Ultimately, if you guys go down the path of the lease, the property owner is gonna be the ones responsible for, finding, construction professionals, design professionals to, do the necessary improvements to that building. I think they feel like they can move pretty quickly on that, and get something moving sooner rather than later. But again, it depends on when do we get the, if we move down that path, when do we get the lease executed, that type of thing, so that they feel comfortable that they can move forward with identifying the folks they want to work on that building.
One thing I want to speak to the CMAR option. We really wrote this and we sent the CMAR proposal out based on a GCPD kind of only facility, which is where that 8.5 multiplier comes from. I think if we would want to leave the flexibility, if this is the path that the commission is interested in, to be able to leave open the door, and we'd want to work on it pretty quickly, and I think we could do that without it radically changing the timeline for the new construction option. Work quickly with Finney County to say, shall we design this for both of us as a temporary place for both of us?
I would appreciate that.
And so just this was all prepared, this was all written, there's been an incredible amount of back and forth and discussions, not on this topic, but a whole host of topics between Garden City and Finney County. So things are, that relationship is certainly moving at a pace and recovering at a pace that makes this information, I would say, a little old. I think it's still accurate, but in the way it was calculated, I just think we may, if we pursue this, may want to anticipate a larger project and keep both agencies together as much as we can. I think there's a real interest on the part of both the county and the city in doing that.
Well, I appreciate the way, I appreciate the way the city takes care of its buildings. And I mean, we've had very little issues. And I know the LAC, I know it's a different commission. I know there's a different times, but I mean, I really appreciate the way the city takes care of its buildings. But being a tenant rather than a landlord, I mean, it changes how much you can do. I mean, you think about how many repairs haven't been made or have been requested. And so that's why I kept pushing, do we want to make sure that we keep alive the opportunity for a building in case something doesn't? But I agree with you. I think this idea of making sure that we work together, and I know that's a desire, and I appreciate that. But I mean, again, making sure that we get a building that's very functional when they remodel, and I know there's no guarantees and all of those kind of things, but I mean, I just want to make sure that the police department has a place that it's not only safe, but, is functional and also has all of the benefits, the things that they really need to do their job the absolute best. Rather than, again, we, try and then we don't do anything. Because this is a lot of money to put out, for a remodel and all this. I know we won't probably spend it all. And I do appreciate the sheriff's office or Finney County splitting some of that remodel cost, because I think they're eventually going to need a place also when the sales tax issue, passes, so.
And I would say with both of these alternatives before you, or both of these kind of facility options before you, from a staff perspective, we're gonna try to move as quickly as we can, on either of these. So it doesn't matter if you choose option 1, 2, or 3, we're gonna hit the ground running, and to Matt's point, continue to work with the county and figure out what right looks like, regardless of if we go CMAR or look at the lease option.
No, I just look at our new fire station. I mean, this is like the state-of-the-art, absolute incredible. I mean, it's going to be a standout that people will come and look at from all over the nation. And I mean, I just want to make sure our police are that well taken care of, because I think the job they do and what they've had to live through for all these different years that we've requested, I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by them so that they know that we're going to take care of them and also get something that we really can use, so.
One thing the memo doesn't address, but just to keep in your mind as you're keeping track of all the big numbers.
Yeah.
This doesn't include relocation of 911 dispatch.
Right.
And so that's still a number we need to figure out. It's somewhat kind of dependent on figuring out, which one of these we do. And, staff has been working on problem solving that as well. We believe that is restricted a little bit geographically of what our options are. we need to be tied, it's important to be tied to some infrastructure and the costs associated with that, if we can avoid, kind of duplicating or recreating something that we only need for a temporary time that's available sort of in this, the area of the LEC, City Building, Fire Station 1. I think that's best case scenario on that. But
And during
there's
the
another
remodel?
big number,
Yeah.
there's another big number piece looming out there. And again, the memo does indicate we are in ongoing discussions about how an interlocal agreement between the city and county might anticipate the total scope of eligible project costs on a sales tax ballot issue that in August, the county commission will consider taking to the voters so that we have a clear, they have clear messaging about what the ballot issue is about, and you and your assistance in the public information campaign can also paint a clear picture of what this money does cover and what it does not.
So at this time, that even through the whole remodel, they're going to be able to stay currently in the LEC and be
Who's they?
the 911 dispatch.
We don't
We don't
know that, and we're actually planning for that doing some planning for that not being the case,
Okay.
but not ruling out that there may be some way to coordinate that. I mean, this building, Fire Station 1, and the LEC are all three in play.
So personally, I lean more towards the 1210 Fleming Street alternative of leasing, just because at first look, I saw the 3.3 to 3.6 million to renovate, and I thought that's so much just for a building to lease. But looking at the total project cost, it'd be about 50% of what it would be to build completely new. On top of that, this is a temporary facility. So by the time the construction's done, we'll have it for about 4 years, and then we'll immediately have to try to sell once we relocate back to the new LEC. And also, I really do like the option to purchase in the lease, just in case I'm a lawyer by trade, which means I'm a pessimist by trade. So just in case if the sales tax did fail, we have that option in there after we spent 3.3 to 3.6 million, and we could put that option as well to be able to purchase the building if we end up having to extend out further past the county's current projected timeline. So that, for those reasons, that's why I think the lease is my preferred option.
So you're an alternative too?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I move that we approve the lease agreement between the City of Garden City and Dwayne Coster Trust and Kathy Coster Trust, and ask the property owners to begin the renovations.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12F, well, sorry. Sorry, I didn't wait for Commissioner Ortiz.
There's a
There was someone who.
member in the audience wanting to make a,
Oh, yeah, come on up.
I'm going to make a couple of comments. There is 2 months waiver.
Dwayne, can you come up and, sorry.
I saw- Hey, Mr. Coster.
Stickler, if you could.
Come up to the mic.
Speak into the microphone.
There's 2 months waiver during that construction period, so you're not paying rent for the 2 months.
Right.
During the construction period. There was a new roof completely installed on that building less than 3 years ago. There's 4+ acres of improved land with the latest in lighting. And I appreciate the decision made, because we were in the awkward position that if someone decided to come in and another project, we were in a spot as to whether you guys were going to get on or get off. But anyway, you have a much larger building, and the city can either use that for other purposes, or there's rent income coming from 40% of the building. There's 40,000. You're only buying you're buying the whole building, but you're only utilizing 57% of the building.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Coster.
Mr. Coster, just for clarity, the motion was reflected number 2, which is approving the lease agreement that would include a purchase option in it.
I understand.
But the commission didn't approve to purchase the building.
I understand.
I didn't, okay, all right,
But
good.
But once you make the improvements.
We'll fall in love by, yeah, okay.
That's
I hope you don't exercise.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Coster.
Okay. Let me get to 12F. The governing body is asked to consider and approve an amendment to a memorandum of understanding between the City of Garden City and Wheatland Electric Cooperative for water tank maintenance.
Mayor and Commissioner, Vice Mayor and Commissioners, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an amendment to the memorandum of understanding between the City of Garden City and Wheatland Electric Cooperative for water tank maintenance. The governing body approved the original memoranda of understanding between the city and Wheatland Electric in 2018, and the agreement allowed the city to receive treated water via pass-through of the Wheatland Reservoir during a time when we were renovating our own tank on the property. When we had that agreement, we also had a reciprocal understanding that Wheatland would be doing a renovation as well, and kind of set a timeline for that renovation in the original agreement. The agreement presented today is to give Wheatland additional time to complete their renovation in the next 12 months. The agreement doesn't create any increased expense for either party. Essentially, we just allow the water to pass through our tank, and then what goes for Wheatland's uses goes out through their meter, and our water will continue to go into our tank and come out for our uses as well. So the original agreement worked well, and we just need to formalize this in the agreement that we had prepared in 2018 with this amendment. Alternatives for the governing body may choose to approve the amendment to the memoranda of understanding. The governing body may choose not to approve the amendment to the memoranda of understanding, or the governing body may choose to direct staff to provide an alternate solution to the amendment to the memorandum of understanding for presentation at a future meeting. Staff recommends alternative 1, approve the amendment to the memorandum of understanding. Fiscal note, there is no fiscal implication for the amendment, and the amendment is attached with the memo.
Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion for this item.
I'll make the motion to approve the amendment to memorandum of understanding.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 12G, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a proposal from Mayor Specialty Services, LLC, for sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation. Fred?
The wastewater utility contracts with Mayor Specialty Services for annual cleaning and inspection of our sanitary sewer system. During that cleaning and inspection process, the condition of sewer manholes is noted, and the city hires a contractor to perform rehabilitation of these manholes to ensure that they remain structurally sound and reduce the opportunity for infiltration by stormwater. Manholes are graded to prioritize their rehabilitation, and the utility has budgeted $80,000 towards manhole rehabilitation in 2025. Conditions vary in the manholes identified for rehabilitation. The proposal requested pricing for 3 different products or their equivalent. City staff would, and just to give you an idea of how we would implement this as we're doing manhole rehab, we would recommend like a product, strong seal geopolymer would be recommended for applications with medium amounts of degradation or in areas strong seal MS2A would be used in areas with minimal degradation or exposure to sewer gases. That basically just reinforces the manhole. Strong seal geopolymer would be recommended for applications with medium amounts of degradation or in areas with elevated sewer gas exposure. And then Zebron 386 would be recommended in areas with high amounts of degradation or in areas with high levels of sewer gas or on interceptor main manholes, just due to the large volumes of water that pass through those. The rehabilitation of each manhole is based on a per square foot price. The proposal received per our request shows a price per vertical foot for 48-inch diameter manholes because this is a common size, and a price per square foot to determine the cost of non-standard size manholes. The city has identified 45 manholes comprising a surface area of 5,398 square feet, and based on the median material cost of $14.75 per square foot, the expected expenditure will be $79,620. City staff will take opportunities to utilize more basic product where feasible to ensure the maximum number of manholes in need of rehabilitation are completed within the $80,000 budget for this year. City issued a request for proposal for 2025 manhole rehabilitation project on April 1st. The proposals were issued to 4 entities that have manhole rehabilitation practice in our region. The city received 1 response to the proposal from Mayor Specialty Services, LLC. The 2025 manhole rehabilitation request for proposal document and proposal form from Mayor Specialty Services is attached with this agenda item. Alternatives for the governing body. The governing body may choose to accept the proposal from Mayor Specialty Services, LLC for sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation. The governing body may choose not to accept the proposal from Mayor Specialty Services, LLC for manhole rehabilitation, or the governing body may direct staff to provide an alternate solution for consideration by the governing body at a future meeting. Staff recommends alternative 1 to accept the proposal from Mayor Specialty Services for sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation. I don't think I could have added any more tongue twisters to that memo. The fiscal note for the memo is the project is funded in the 2025 water and sewer utility budget. Under materials, manhole geocode is listed for your reference, and the available budget is $80,000.
Are there any questions for Fred?
I move that we choose to accept the proposal from Mayor Specialty Services, LLC for the sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation.
I second.
There's been a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
So Vice Mayor, before we do the budget, could we have a short break? Just like a 5 or 10 minute break, I could use that before we start budget. Will that work for you?
Is that okay with everybody else? Yes.
We'll be done with the budget in 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Jerry?
No, I don't think so. No.
Council, there's a motion? Do we need to make a motion for a recess?
I think you can do that as the chair,
Okay.
Vice Mayor, if you just
Great.
recess the meeting, and we'll be back in session in which, pick a time on the,
Great. Do I gavel for that? I don't remember.
yeah, you can use the gavel.
Yeah, we'll recess until 3:23. Sorry. is 12H.
All right, good afternoon. I failed to attach the breakdown of the fund balance flow, so I provided that to you. I will attach this one as well as the one for the enterprise fund in the next item, so that it's in the packet for reference as well. So this first document with the fund cash flow, just like last year, you can see the 24 ending balance slash 25 starting balance. Then the green columns are the revenues, that kind of pinkish red is the expenses, and then you can see the blue, the ending balance at year end. So you can kind of track which funds are going up, down, and what the cash position of each with revenues and expenditures that we'll go over today in what they look like. So to start off, we have our bond and interest fund. This is Fund 201. You'll see as a reminder, it's been a minute since we looked at these. Your columns go with the 24 actual, shows the actual expenditures from last year. Then you have your 25 original budget. If there's been any revisions year to date in the budget, you'll see that 25 revised budget reflect that. We have some funds where we tinker kind of early on pre these meetings. The capital improvement reserve, the FinUp trust, the dollars remaining at year end become the budget for the following year. So we make that kind of administrative adjustment on the books to start the year so that the departments that use those funds know what their available balances are. And so you may see some that have revised budget, but most of our budgets that we present, you'll see the exact same figure for that 25 original and 25 revised column. Then you'll have the 25 actual, which is the year-to-date spending as of the time I print the report. And then your 25 projection column is the proposed 25 budget that we would like to revise to, or that we're proposing to revise to. And then the 26 finance director column is the proposed 26 original budget. And so in this bond and interest, you'll see that it stays fairly consistent. The value is fairly similar to the past year. We'll allocate ad valorem tax. The motor vehicle, recreational vehicle, all the personal property taxes are based off of this assumption of the kind of same dollars as last year, allocated in the same way. We will get that mid-May from the county treasurer's office. And so we'll update those, and then we'll have a clearer picture on kind of are those going up or down, and there may be some tinkering with these values, but they're similar to the allocation of last year. And then you have the main expenses are your interest on the bonds and the principal on the bonds for 25 and 26. And then in 26, we budget 5% coverage, which gives us just a little bit of a buffer, kind of wiggle room. I will note that at this point, we don't have any anticipated increase budgeted here for the 26 bond and interest going up. There are some projects that may be looking to be bonded that we will present as we go through these meetings. Some of those are having to do with water. There is one that would possibly hit this fund, which would be the airport parking lot project. Those will be presented with the CIP discussion, and then we can kind of have the commission indicate are there any projects you would like to slot into that bond for 2025. And then we would come back and tinker with these values if need be. It would be slight increase to the interest and principal in the 26 payment, since if we bond, it would be in the fall and no payment would be due till next year. And I'll hesitate at the end of each fund rather than ask for questions, so jump on those opportunities to ask if you have one. Next, we have the TIF fund. This is our kind of revolving door fund here where our TIF and RHID and CID dollars come in. Some of those come from the state for the CIDs. The TIF and RHID comes from the county for disbursements. And in most instances, those dollars are then turned around and dispersed back out to the appropriate developer if they've submitted their eligible costs and gone through the steps to be eligible for those expenses or those redemptions at that point. So most of these will have a revenue of a set value and then an expense line with the same name of the same value. And really most of those dollars come in. The exception to that is that there's a tax distribution for the Garden Cities TIF project, which pays on kind of the second page in the middle. You have interest on bonds and principal on bond. Those are the payments that the city makes on the bonds we issued for our own TIF development. Those are ahead of pace and will likely pay off early. They're scheduled to continue, but they'll probably pay off a few years ahead of schedule because they've done well.
Jared, the commissioners last year received and I sent last year's version out in an email earlier today. It was presented in I think a budget meeting. The schedule of TIFs when they're statutorily, when the 20 years or whatever is up, but then also if they're on pace to pay off early, where we're sort of targeting they may pay off early. Is that something we can prepare for or show them again? Yep. An updated version. I'm sure it doesn't deviate a lot from last year's. It's probably tracking pretty close, but
I believe it was presented by Alicia in her presentation on it. I think she presented again this year with an update, but I can pull that and include it in the next.
In the housing presentation, I think it's included in
Yes.
that too. And we do have one that's going to roll off and influence the 2026 budget.
Correct.
Kind of our first one, at least from an RHID standpoint.
Yes, we have one that has, in our eyes, completed. There'll be an ordinance at the next commission meeting, basically indicating that the commission recognizes that it's complete and has been fully reimbursed and that we're closing the RHID. Then we'll submit that to the county. And then for their 2025 tax calculations, they will remove the TIF increment. And so that process would occur with any that pays off early. Some of them on the schedule that we put together project somewhat early payoff. A lot of them right now are pretty much on pace to hit the full 20 year or whatever the years allocated is. But there are a handful that I think will maybe a year or two early. This first one is, I believe, 4 years, 3 or 4 years earlier than scheduled. All right, next is the Community Trust Reserve. Here you can see that we have federal grant dollars coming back in as revenues, and then a repayment from KDOT coming in as revenues, and some expense line for the project costs. This is for the Safe Streets for All that I mentioned earlier. So when this project kind of finishes up the engineering and design piece of the kind of study piece of the grant, the expenses will be fully reimbursed from either federal or KDOT funds, and then the fund will be made whole. And then we'll have that allocated $500,000 out of what's available to then use for future projects in the interim until that shadow loan is completed. Next is the Capital Improvement Reserve. These are dollars generally held over. There are some revenues coming here held for specific functions such as park fees and some things to do with the zoo and their FinUp Center and distance learning that then turn around and pay for programming in that same area. But a lot of these are held over dollar funds from the general fund that just weren't able to be expensed in a given year, so they're held over to the next year. And so you'll see that our 25 projection is increased quite a bit over the original budget because in each year we allocate in this year, the dollars available are going to be fully expensed, and we don't anticipate them going into 26. Well, the reality is that a lot of them will still end up carrying over to 26. So you'll see that kind of wide ebb and flow every year. And then this is one fund that almost every year when we come back with the amended budget at the end of the year, we have to amend the current year's allocation to provide authority because the future 26 year is way diminished over what will likely end up being in that fund or available cash not yet spent. But a lot of these are new equipment purchases, projects that are ongoing. There's been some dollars set aside for the police. You'll notice that line's fairly large. We've been, for equipment and things for repair and renovations, we've been holding the funds anticipating this relocation. So those dollars are being kind of earmarked for when the time comes that we pull the trigger on the law enforcement center's relocation for temporary. We can use those dollars to facilitate some of that movement or the relocation cost. Next, you have the Special Traffic Way Fund. These dollars come from the state highway funds. And then we also have the fund exchange where we get federal dollars we can exchange with KDOT for 90 cents on the dollar. So you have a little over $1 million in revenues. The main function of that is for kind of the street ongoing projects. You'll see for where the breakdowns for special traffic operations. We have some insurance costs coming out of here. I'll point out that you'll see a recurring theme of all of our budgets that the insurance costs continue to go up astronomically. So we have budgeted a 25% increase in 2026 over what we experienced in 25. And hopefully this year we over-exaggerate that and have a miracle and it's way less. But the last few years we've budgeted around 20%, and each year we've come in lower than what the actuality has been. So we're trying to get ahead of that a little bit better. You also notice the material street repair line is at $600,000. That's been around $400,000 this fund previously. This is to bite off a little more of the PEC 8-year plan. With the amount of money we've been putting towards it, it's not going to be an 8-year plan, it'll be prolonged. But this is using some of these funds to kind of attack that plan. You'll see a similar increase similar kind of uptick in the general funds material street repair over what previously has been budgeted, accomplishing the same thing. And then new equipment street, this is for ongoing equipment capital purchases. We have some new sweeper that we just did a capital lease on. That's going to be helpful around town. We have dump trucks. About every year there's a dump truck that goes out of service that we replace. And so the last few vehicles we've acquired have been capital leases. So instead of putting all that fund dollars up front, we look at kind of spreading it over time. You'll notice an uptick in the 2026 budget. This anticipates the replacement of a dump truck, probably paying for it in full. But we're revisiting whether that should be another capital lease and spread that paying over 5 or 7 years rather than putting all the dollars in today. Then you have our traffic signs and markings. This is for the maintenance of the traffic signals, kind of a steady number over the past years. We're still working on kind of revamping some of our signals, but the ongoing maintenance and cost of those continues to go up. When equipment goes down, it's always more expensive to replace. And then they kind of some supplies shop, things that just kind of are ongoing in nature there. And then they have a traffic for snow removal. And this is some of the supplies that they do, the brine, the equipment that they put out, the salt and sand, all of that comes out of here to make sure that in the winter we have adequate supply to be able to attack the winter weather. Next fund is special improvements. You'll see that this is where the expenses are for our weed cutting. So if, as we go through our nuisance removals, if there's weeds or things like that, we have to end up sending our contracted individual to go out and do. This fund pays for that, and then when it's repaid by the citizen, it comes back into here. If dollars are then put against their property or their property tax, sometimes that's a delay in coming back in this fund. So generally, you'll see more expenses out in a year than revenue in. And so we've looked, I think last year we revamped a little bit on the fees that we charge for those. That used to cover the cost of the actual remediation plus kind of the administrative piece and the buildup of that fund and the timing, and that kind of wedge between the two has diminished. So that's something that ongoing we'll continue to analyze of whether that fee needs to go up to make sure this fund doesn't deplete down. Next is cemetery endowment. We previously had slotted $100,000 of the cemetery improvement dollars here for cemetery improvement. The earmark was for the ongoing cemetery expansion project. If extra dollars were needed, then this fund could be utilized as well. Previously, we've talked about potentially doing a project for the singing tower or some other improvement at the cemetery. With the bond dollars we have from the project last year, we anticipate we'll be able to do the full expansion as we originally outlined, and hopefully maybe a little bit more. So we're looking at that, and we'll probably have some kind of change order back to the commission at some point to look at expanding that project a little bit. Special recreation and parks is the revenue here comes from 1/3 of the alcohol tax that is distributed amongst the special recreation and parks, the special alcohol funds we use for our grant funding that we do for the AFAC grants, and then the other third goes to the general fund. And so this ongoing, we use to pay for kind of one-time projects out of parks, and then a portion of it goes to the golf course. So you'll see that we have an uptick in 25 and 26 for the transfer golf course line. Historically, we've done $60,000 to the golf course with their ongoing costs, particularly due to their ongoing project and some of the other expenses they've experienced. We're uptaking that slightly in the next 2 years. And then there's $124,000 equipment for parks that breaks down some either new equipment they're purchasing or new playground equipment that we're going to be kind of renovating some of the playgrounds and working on improvements there. Special alcohol drug abuse, this is the other third of the alcohol tax that comes in, and this is used, the contract services line is what we use for our AFAC funding when those grants come due each year. And so that's staying very similar to previous years. The FinUp Trust, we just received the FinUp Trust letter, and their award for this year is going towards various projects for the zoo, as well as being tagged towards the renovations at Clint Leitner. We've been asking for the last few years to kind of put all the dollars for the park side to that. So we're building that up, and so when we look at the CIP, the capital improvement plan, one of the items that you'll look at that didn't score necessarily high but has other funding will be that Clint Leitner project, and the FinUp Trust is the main source of funding for that project that we've been building. And then next year we budget $150,000 and then allocate projects similar to capital improvement reserve. We don't know how that's going to break down, so you kind of just future budget, but more than likely the projects they have in 25 won't actually occur in full, and there'll be some carryover that will revise the budget for next year. Next is our risk management fund. This is where we pay for insurance if we have deductibles to pay or claims. And so we have transfers in from some city departments to build up the revenue here. If we get repayments from insurance on a claim or things, they go into here to build up the fund. And then if we have those claims that we expense, they come out of here as well. Drug enforcement, as well as the following one for DEA. The drug enforcement doesn't have a lot going on. There's state tax distributions that come in, and then they expense back out. But we have some revenue come in from drug forfeiture that we used towards canine expenses previously in the past and supplies for canine, and so we'll continue to use that for the same. They don't generally cover the full cost of like a new canine unit, but they help to offset some of that training and the dog food and kind of equipment needed for that. DEA forfeiture has diminished greatly over the last few years. There's very little that has come into this, and so therefore the expenses are low. and we don't expect a whole lot of activity in this fund due to just a kind of a moving away from the procedure of the past of those drug forfeiture dollars coming to this Garden City. Community development loan, these are loan payments that we use for our tree loans and others. You'll have some dollars in and dollars out each year, but it's not been heavily used the last few years. And so that budget stays pretty minimal. You'll notice on the cash fund page, there's not a lot of dollars set aside for that because the usage has been fairly low. The economic development loan, this was previously our CDBG fund, which had approximately $350,000 in it. The state, due to lack of use, closed the program, and so we had to send back our dollars. I believe there was an item I brought before you last year for that. So we had paid back most of those. The dollars represented here are the collections of the outstanding loans that were not paid back in full at the time when we sent dollars back to the state. And so as we collect those, we will disperse those funds to the state to help to continue to close out the program. And once they are either all fully collected, or if we work with the state to have some sort of write-off arrangement, then we will close out this fund and there really won't be any dollars left to budget here in the future. Next is our enhanced wireless 911 funds. You'll remember over the last couple of years, we purchased some additional equipment to add some depth of coverage for the 911 units. They had kind of a mobile cart that's a dispatch cart that was available. Should something happen, we need to go elsewhere. And then there was also contributions towards the new mobile command unit that's coming for the city out of the 911 funds for some of the equipment that went into that. And so there was a spend down of the fund that had kind of accrued over the years. And so you'll notice the cash balance of the 911 funds is much lower than it was 2 years ago. But historically, our expenses have been less than our revenues each year, and that's how we kind of built up that fund. And so you'll see that trend kind of continue over the next few years. The revenues come in from our telephone franchise, as well as some miscellaneous. The miscellaneous in 25 is for that sale of that surplus radio equipment we had. And so that's coming in this year. And then their ongoing costs now are kind of more back to normal, you would say. Their maintenance contracts for their services, for the programs and software they have, their ongoing training and travel, but less capital purchases than they've had the last couple of years. Next is our HIDA grant. This is our high-intensity drug trafficking area. So we get fund dollars, grant dollars to help in that nature. The city puts in their contribution piece. That's where you'll see the $90,000 transfer in, and then the budgeted $55,000 for the federal grant, and this covers more or less the salary and benefits cost of one of our officers that is working specifically on HIDA. 318 is housing. These are the dollars set aside. There's a payment in lieu of taxes with the housing authority that they've been paying, and the city has been building up a fund that we used for their capital expenditures when need be. We used some for their parking lot last year. That's what that $28,800 in 2024 was. But they have gone previous to that, I think 4 or 5 years of building funds and not expensing anything. So their fund has continued to build, and should they have ongoing large capital costs come up, they'll be able to use these funds for those projects. Project development, the main piece here is the downtown project. These are the remaining dollars from the downtown development funds that the city commission elected to set aside a couple years ago. You'll see in 2024, there's expenditures of $102,173. So far in 25, there's about $31,000. And the projection is that those dollars will all be used and finished up in 2025. I believe that they have applications in that they anticipate will all complete those, but you never know, that could change. But our anticipation now is that 2026, there won't be any dollars left in that line. 320, Project Safe Neighborhoods.
And so unless that one's refunded, then basically, Jared, it will disappear? Is that what you're saying too? Or?
Correct, yeah, unless the commission elects to set aside dollars into that, just like they did a couple years ago, there's no revenue source that comes in or no replenishment of that other than us dictating that we're gonna set aside so many dollars from the general fund as a transfer or some other mechanism. But it takes the city commission deciding to set apart that.
It seemed like it wasn't used for many years, and all of a sudden it was used quite a lot, but I don't. Yeah.
There were no dollars, so it wasn't funded for a lot of years. And so once it was funded, I think the Alicia and the Neighborhood Development Services could speak to that, but I think applications came in fairly quickly and continue to come in to use those dollars. So when the dollars are available, I think it's well received by downtown folks to be able to renovate and improve. But for a lot of years there was not dollars set aside in the budget process of the city to fund such.
So those dollars that get paid back don't replenish this fund at all? Isn't it just a loan program though for the project development? It's not?
It's not a loan. They
It's
have
a
a
grant.
portion of their project that it's a grant.
Okay.
The city says, okay, your project meets all these qualifications, here's the whole matrix. You're eligible for up to $22,000 or $48,000. And that is a grant piece from the
Okay.
city to help them with their project, but there's no repayment of that from the developer.
Has Downtown Vision talked about making it, well, I know, is it something that we are thinking about, or you're not going to plan any additional dollars for next year?
We don't have it in the budget at the time, but if the commission, when we kind of get to those discussions of the levers that you want to pull in or out, if that's something that commissioner feels strongly about, we could definitely add that in. Our initial kind of projection of our property tax amount is that we're gonna have to be cutting again.
I see.
And so it's moving in the wrong direction. But by all means, that's the discussion of the budget is, you know, prioritization of this is important, we want to do this, then what do you have to offset that with? But the last year's conversation, that was on the table as a, do you want to include this? And it was chosen not to, as those kind of final cuts were made, to not add additional dollars to the Downtown Development Fund. But Downtown Vision doesn't put those dollars in, it comes from the cities.
Right, I didn't know if they had advocated for those, or if they were saying, hey, these are making a huge difference or not, so.
They usually come and present when they submit their budget request, and so in the next couple months, they have, you know, new direction, so that might be a little
Okay.
daunting to them, but I can help them with that. I could tell you that they're gonna say yes, we would love to have the dollars.
Yeah.
Because every time, like I said, every time we have dollars set aside, and when we did set that aside, there was a pretty quick application of,
Okay.
hey, we have multiple projects kind of waiting for a little help to be able to move along. Any other questions on downtown? Okay. Project Safe Neighborhood, this is another one that has dollars coming in from the federal grant to help with purchasing equipment, particularly for keeping the neighborhood safe, and it's a program through our police department. And we generally have kind of an ongoing grant that's been renewed kind of year in and year out. There's an ongoing application, and we continue to apply for and have dollars come in for that. Our last special revenue fund is our opioid settlements. This is a newer fund, and these are the dollars received from the opioid settlements being conducted by the Kansas Attorney General and others. And so these dollars, the city basically signed an agreement saying we would be welcome to receive these, and we would use them for specific purposes to help combat the opioid crisis. And so those dollars, last year, we spent some of them on the sign for kind of the public information, and I believe some equipment. And we'll probably look to continue to do similar type cost expenditures. There's also some other programs have done kind of having some joint response with like drug professionals or just particularly safety equipment for the law enforcement that are responding to such instances where opioids, particularly fentanyl, may be present. And so there's kind of a wide breadth of what you could put those under, but the direction of what exactly qualifies has been somewhat vague. So we've been a little hesitant to expense those dollars until we knew it would qualify. But with that direction, we've gotten a little more clarity in the last year. I anticipate we'll continue to find good programs to spend those on. Next is Fund 601. This is the city's health insurance fund. The dollars come into this from either the transfer from within the organization, the city's contribution to our health insurance for each employee, or the employee contributions from their withholdings on their paychecks, as well as retiree insurance payments. You'll see that we have transferred in dollars from the health insurance reserve and $100,000 in '25 and anticipation of $250,000 in 2026. We've continued to draw on the health insurance reserve to kind of bite off the pain for upticking this employee's contribution piece. We've seen some increases that have been large for the city in the last few years. When you look at kind of comparables to the other, especially kind of local government type public entities in the region, our renewals haven't been terrible, but that cost has gone up quicker than the city's contribution piece has been able to kind of absorb. And so the employee portion of health insurance has gone up, and the drawing on the health insurance reserve has just kind of diminished that immediate pain and prolonged it. But that, you'll see in the next page, the health insurance reserve is going down, and so there's only so long that can kind of subsidize. But that's been our tactic the last few years. You'll see the health insurance costs, the actual last year was $4.464 million. Anticipated this year 4.8 and next year 5.2. I believe we had a 6% renewal was kind of our final number last year. We're hoping for similar figures in the future. Out of this line, we also pay our clinic operation costs. Included in that $815,000 is the amount for the mental wellness that was approved by the City Commission to continue on go. And we also fund some safety initiatives of the city out of this fund as well. And then we have our health insurance reserve. You'll see the $100,000 in 25 and the $250,000 in 26. And if you look at the kind of the drawdown breakdown of the cash flow, the beginning cash of the health insurance reserve is $1.4 million in 2025 starting, and it's going to go down to $1.095. It was about $1.8, $1.9 a couple years ago, so we've continued to draw on those dollars. And then 611 is workers' comp. We pay our workers' comp premium for our insurance out of this fund. Last year, we saw an uptick. This year, we budgeted accordingly, saying, hey, we might see that same uptick. It actually came down, so we've kept our budget at the same level. But if we experience another kind of drop next year, we'll probably diminish the amount allocated for every department into the workers' comp fund. In the past, if there's kind of excess amounts, we build up the work comp reserve, and we pulled on the worker comp reserve last year to help offset some of the general fund costs. And so we could build that back up with any excess that kind of accrues over the next year or two. This one's hard to predict because it's just based off of our history. So if we have a year with some large incidents of kind of employee accidents and such, that may skyrocket. And it typically is a 3-year look-back period, so those last and kind of impact your renewal for 3 years or two or 3 years.
So this includes both our police department and our fire department?
This is every work comp, the whole city's work comp policy.
So does the county help offset this work comp with their contributions toward our fire department, or no? Or is it just something we simply?
No, this is based off a census of city employees.
Okay.
And then lastly is the work comp reserve. You'll see that $200,000 last year, 24 actual, was that transfer to the general fund to help kind of make that budget work. And so our cash balance is lower than it has been. It's usually been around $1 million, a little under $1 million. And so if we can build that back up over the next couple of years, it'll kind of get us back to where we were. But other than that, no other real costs expensed. And in the past, this fund was used for like settlements of work comp claims, and they're, I believe they've all been settled from the previous kind of fully insured through KMIT. So there's no outstanding kind of unsettled claims from before we were fully insured.
Commissioner Unruh, was your question about like the firefighters attributable to Fire Station 3, whether or not we're calculating this as workers' comp as one of the benefits that we add to salary and all that we turn in as an eligible sales tax expense from the 2017 sales tax?
Yeah, I didn't know that's part of it, but I didn't know if there was any reimbursement since it covers the whole county, if they also help with those costs. I know we have an agreement where we cover.
In general terms,
right.
Jared's answer is correct. I think in specific terms as related to us doing the calculation for the Fire Station 3 expenses, is this one of, do we add in?
Yeah, we calculate for the Fire Station 3 costs, the full, we actually have the personnel kind of breakout of all the positions we've added specifically for Fire Station 3, and so we calculate their salary and benefits. So the contribution for them city per employee is calculated in there as well.
So we can take
So that's included in the piece of what this is transferring from those sales tax funds to the general fund as a subsidy of the operational costs.
But that's going to the general fund, not going to this specific fund.
Yep. And that's all of our special revenues as well as our health insurance and work comp. Is there any questions or anything I can answer for you guys today? This one's generally the easy one. The next two, the utility, the enterprise funds, the utilities will be the next fund, commission meeting, and then the general fund and the CIP will be the meeting following that. And we'll talk about bond issuance as well at that point. Look forward to it.
Great. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
You'd think in a 3-hour meeting, we could have figured out a way to get more than 2 items on the consent agenda, but we didn't. So if you approve the consent agenda item, it would be items 13A and B.
Great. I move we approve consent agenda items 13A and 13B.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And that concludes the business. We're ready for commissioner reports.
Commissioner Ortiz, would you like to start off, please?
Yeah. Just like to say thanks for the presentation pre-meeting today. We had a pretty good insight of the city link routes and fairs that help citizens go through Garden City, and some new things that were learned there, and that was pretty cool. Just the fact that what they do to assist people or individuals that are incapable of driving or need to go to places, what they offer is pretty amazing. So that's a very important bus link to have in Garden City in our community. So just like to ask everybody who doesn't know anything about it, they're online, or you can go visit them at their location. So I also like to thank Dr. Ruda for him being here today and also presenting the partnership. I know it's kind of in the works still, but I believe that partnership will work out in the future as far as moving things down the road to help professionals in Garden City and to educate them locally. So it's great to have that partnership and collaboration, communication with our stakeholders, and the Garden City Community College is a huge asset for our community as well. So thank Dr. Ruda for showing up. All the efforts that went into the police department station, give thanks to those research and reviews. I know it's a hard task, but I believe we'll get there. And I believe with just more collaboration and communications, we can iron this out and move forward to a great building or location where our policemen and women are in a healthier place where they can work. So I just like to give thanks to all those who were involved in that. Also just like to continue the efforts of collaboration and communication with our partners, whether it's at the county level, stakeholder level, and just the community level as well, to just engage and rub elbows with everybody to gain knowledge and support, and to just gain insight on our community and be involved. So kudos to Matt and his staff for doing that, and kudos to the chair, Jerry Schultz, and his staff on doing that as well. So Cinco de Mayo this weekend, I believe it was, I didn't show up. I was working. I was helping my kids mow. So I was on the job. But heard it was a really good turnout, really well attended for the parade, and the park was packed. Just like to, basically share that the community involvement and the support that we give for our just our culture in general, I guess, is great. Just like to say thank you for that support, involvement in the community. It's great to be here and live here in Garden City. We have a great community. We have a great atmosphere, and we have great support. So I just ask that you continue to do that and bless this community with that. Also, I'd like to thank everybody for the birthday wishes that were supportive of me yesterday. It was interesting because I got on Facebook. I apologize, I haven't been on Facebook for a year and a half. I gave it up. So I was getting a lot of texts or a lot of messages on Facebook, and I just decided, okay, I gotta go back and just thank them for doing that. Went on Facebook, and after, I believe I had 140 wishes, and while I was going through when I got to 100, it kicked me out, and Facebook logged me out and basically shut my account down, because I don't know why. But if I didn't get to you and say thank you, I apologize for Facebook locking me out. But just thanks for the well wishes, and what a great opportunity to just be in Garden City, and the love that was shared in Gardens, and in just Facebook or social media or just in person in general. So thanks to everybody. Appreciate it.
Great. Commissioner Unruh. So there's some really neat things coming up. I want to make sure that the Touch a Truck event, that's a really neat one. And I know that's coming up in May is packed. And so, there's tons of stuff to take advantage of. And I just really appreciate all of the lists that the city provides. And also, just how our communications department really alerts you to all the different things that we have going and available. Also, I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Wynn and Commissioner Landgraf for being at the town hall meeting. And I did watch the meeting, and I know there's several concerns about a property. And so I did speak with Matt, and he did answer. Hopefully there's something that we can help. I know there's not an immediate remedy, but I know that hopefully reaching out and making sure that we're doing everything that we can as a city, especially where something's unoccupied or vacant, with the safety issues. I also appreciate the Garden City Community College, the partnership, this idea of pulling in the same direction. And, really it's this, the commitment, the dollar commitment is important, and it shows that we are ready to step up and, understand the value of having all the construction trades in our area and bringing more, because again, we need that, but also this idea of they are really stepping out to say, hey, this is something we're going to provide. And I think it'll be a huge opportunity for lots of area young people or older people. You can go back to college if you're older. And so I think that's going to be a really neat opportunity. I'm excited about the moving forward finally with the police department, and that the lease, and we're going to get that taken care of and get them moved in quickly, and hopefully they'll be able to only be there temporarily, and then, be able to get something done on that with the passage of the upcoming sales tax, so we can get an LEC. I did want to ask some questions about I saw that Dodge City has got the immigration services. Is something that we have worked on partnership with them, I know, in our area, and I wasn't sure how that's going to impact. I know a lot of people who do have to travel, especially with immigration services, to the larger cities, and I'm hoping that that's going to make an impact here in Western Kansas. And is it monthly now, Derek, or is it?
Currently, we have monthly mobile services to each of the member cities, Dodge, Garden, and Level.
Right.
However, there's a press release that should go out this afternoon that I will send the commission when it's released.
So we'll have them. Will be more often or less?
It's going to be once a month, but just in one city, in Dodge.
Oh, they chose the wrong city, so I'm just kidding.
It's due to proximity to Wichita.
Right. No, I understand. Okay. I was hoping that was going to make a big difference in as far as the availability and not people not having to travel. So, but. I also just want to say thank you to Western State Bank. I think this is a partnership we're trying out, and affordable housing, we talk about that all the time, and what an opportunity to test or make an investment in our community. So I'm kind of excited about how that's all going to work, and I'll be excited about hearing the glowing results of that. And I just want to say thank you to all of our city employees, and also just the police and the fire department. It has been a busy month, and I know that this summer is going to be even busier with just Western Kansas. So I just wanted to say thank you, and also just for all you do. That's all I had.
Great. Commissioner Landgraf.
So first, just want to say it was a really good pre-meeting with Finney County Transit, being able to get some of that data as well. One of the things I didn't realize was that last year they had 73,330 riderships between the CityLink and the minibus. Just having that huge of a number is really amazing. Also was able to attend the Garden City Area Chamber of Commerce's annual banquet. Just want to say thank you to the Chamber for putting on such a wonderful event, being able to celebrate all the businesses, and also just say congrats to everyone who did win an award. I was able to go to the Cinco de Mayo event, and it was a wonderful time. The park was packed. There was so many people there, so it really is great being able to have that many people there, being able to celebrate. Then finally, just want to point out, we have so many wonderful proclamations for May, and just celebrating so many wonderful people. Just want to say thank you to all of those as well.
Cool. A really full meeting, 3 hours worth, and then a really full report for me for a very full last couple weeks. I joined Mr. Jared Spencer's JAG class to speak about the different careers in local government that just doesn't stem from just city management, but also from utilities, et cetera. And it was really fun to provide them with a little trivia about our community, that they were really surprised to see that we have over 200 animals at our zoo. I attended the Chamber of Commerce annual banquet, always really well put together by Micah and her team. And then I went to Edith Sherman. They host a career speaker every Friday morning, so it was great to stop by to kind of advocate for hopefully one of them in the future to be one of our seats. Our town hall last Tuesday, so if you missed that, just a little quick spiel on that is that there's a property on Gillespie neighborhood, and we were so grateful for the whole neighborhood to come out and share their concerns. And then in our agenda item, we also had kind of a summary of the citywide cleanup. I think 1,200, almost 1,300 man hours and 1,300 equipment hours that totaled up to 35,000 soft and hard costs. And I think that is such an impressive commitment to our community to say that we are so willing to provide a service where it benefits the whole community. I welcomed the Epsilon Sigma Alpha State Convention, full of a bunch of ladies who were so full of joy and vivacious to go out and serve. And just their state Epsilon Sigma Alpha chapter, they committed over $3 million to St. Jude's, which is really impressive. And then lastly, lots of fun things happening at the golf course. I've been able to get out there. And then I also visited with one of the students from last weekend, KCAC, I think, Tim Biggs. He's a student from Bethany College, and just heard tons of praise for how welcoming our community is, and also obviously how beautiful our golf course is. So yeah, with that, this meeting is adjourned.